This manhwa begins in the Tianwu Continent, to be precise, in Yin City, and at the house of the Yi family. A guard forcefully kicks open the house gate, and the steward of the Yi family angrily shouts if Yi-Yun is dead, while also calling him useless trash. The steward of the Yi family, Fong Hu, tells Yi-Yun that if he is not dead, he should hurry up and crawl out to meet them. Then, as they open the house door and found Yi-Yun, our protagonist, sitting in a chair, clearly in pain, Fong Hu tells him that he is truly a genius at the 9th stage of body tempering. Even after being exposed to such a high dose of solar-eroding corpse poison, Yi-Yun hasn't immediately died. As a fellow member of the Yi family, Fong Hu says he'll send him on his way with a direct hit. However, Yi-Yun just glares at Fong Hu in anger while the guards were ordered to attack him. One of the guards teasingly tells Yi-Yun that he has no choice in the matter. Then, this guard launches his blade to kill Yi-Yun, telling him not to blame him for being heartless. Fortunately, Yi-Yun grabs the guard's hand in time and angrily glares at him, making the guard's eyes widen in shock. Then, Yi-Yun cracks the guard's hand and pulls it out of the guard's body. The guard falls to the ground, shouting in pain. Yi-Yun then stands up with a smirk and tells them that he'll give them a piece of advice before they take any action. They should keep their talking to a minimum. Then, he walks past the shaking guard on the ground. Fong Hu, in a frightened state, asks him if he wasn't poisoned and injured. Sweating bullets, Fong Hu also notices that Yi-Yun's cultivation level has also recovered. Then, Yi-Yun asks Fong Hu if he is wondering why his cultivation has recovered. A flashback shows our protagonist, Yi-Yun, was originally a senior game otaku. However, he woke up one day and found himself reincarnated into the body of the young master of the Yi family in Yin City, with the same name and surname. The painful sensations in his body and residual memories told him that he was poisoned by Yi Kuan, the eldest son of the Yi family. Overnight, he went from being a martial arts genius to a waste, and he almost lost his life. Fortunately, there is no road without an end. Then, a notification showed him that the Multiverse Devouring System had matched with him and had been activated automatically. Yi-Yun was confused at first, wondering what the Multiverse Devouring System was. But when the system showed him that it detected a large amount of poison within his body, which could endanger his safety, and asked him if he would like to devour it, with shaking hands he clicked yes. He knew that whatever it was, he didn't have the right to choose. Then, a strong bolt of lightning went inside his body, while the notification showed him that he had activated the attribute panel and storage space. Also, the poison in his body was successfully devoured, and he was congratulated for obtaining 800 experience points. So, his original skill, Pile Mountain Palm, was changed to Fire Poison Palm. Then, the system showed him his status. His realm is at the 3rd stage of body tempering, and his experience points are 100 over 1000. It also showed him that when his experience points are full, he can break through to the 4th stage of body tempering. Additionally, he doesn't have a weapon. His technique is an inherited technique called Fei Yin Yun Art, which is of advanced yellow rank. His martial arts include Fire Poison Palm, which is of advanced mysterious rank, Tremor Stop, which is of advanced yellow rank, and Soundwave Roar, which is of intermediate rank. Yi-Yun couldn't believe that after he devoured the toxin, his original Pile Mountain Palm skill unexpectedly evolved into the higher-level Fire Poison Palm. Fong Hu angrily asks Yi-Yun if he's mute, demanding to know who helped him recover his cultivation. Yi-Yun teasingly smiles at Hu and replies that the heavens themselves couldn't tolerate scum like him, so they granted him an extremely powerful ability, the Super Thick Golden Finger. Upon hearing this, Fong Hu fearfully asks what Yi-Yun wants to do next. Yi-Yun knows that his current body has just recovered and his physical strength is weak, so he needs to act quickly. Then, a system notification appears, stating that it has detected his current strength and is offering him a newcomer's gift package. It asks if he would like to open it immediately. Yi-Yun shouts at the system, asking what it's waiting for, and orders it to open the gift. The system congratulates him for obtaining 1,000,000 times attack speed. It explains that this is an extremely powerful divine ability that can't be evaluated at his current level of cultivation. As his cultivation improves, he can unlock even higher attack speeds. The system shows that its divine ability is unknown, making Yi-Yun think that this is interesting. In the world of martial arts, speed is highly valued, and this millionfold attack speed will significantly enhance his combat power. Fong Hu, now furious, asks the other guard behind him what he's waiting for and orders him to cut off Yi-Yun's limbs while he's stunned. The guard acknowledges the order, but before he can act, Yi-Yun appears in front of Fong Hu with incredible speed. He grabs Fang Hu's shoulder and activates his threefold attack speed fire poison palm. A powerful burst of fire erupts, trashing Fang Hu across the house's compound with great force and into a wall, denting it greatly. Badly injured, Fang Hu falls to the ground. Yiyun approaches him, remarking that the ability worked quite well for a first-time use and that the increase in speed also seems to boost his explosive power. Fang Hu, shaking in pain, asks what kind of power Yiyun possesses. Yiyun simply tells him that there are many things he doesn't yet understand and suggests he seek answers from the King of Hell, Yanwangi. Then, Yiyun uses his Devour Fragrance skill while holding Fang Hu's head. Fang Hu feels something wrong with his cultivation and angrily asks what Yiyun has done. Fang Hu then screams in pain. A notification appears, informing Yiyun that he has successfully devoured Fang Hu's energy and gained 300 experience points. Fang Hu collapses, and the guard begged for his life, and admitting his wrongdoing. Yiyun walks closer to the guard and tells him that he's next, and with a menacing grin, Yiyun continued that it was his turn now. The system then notifies him that his divine ability, the million times attack speed, is now set to a threefold attack speed for demonstration purposes. Night falls on the outer edges of the Black Moon mountain range. Yiyun attacks a massive boar attempting to flee. In the process, it crashes into a huge tree, destroying it. A few minutes later, the boar collapses, dead from Yiyun's final punch that leaves a significant mark on its body. Exhausted, Yiyun catches his breath, relieved that the boar has finally stopped struggling. Small boars around him tremble in fear. Knowing he's nearly out of stamina, he places his hand on the boar and activates his Devour skill. A black aura emanates from the boar as he devours it. A system notification congratulates him for devouring the essence of a first-order thick-skinned wild boar king, awarding him 100 experience points. It also congratulates him for advancing to the 5th stage of body tempering. Yiyun is grateful. After 2 days of diligent practice, he has progressed from the 3rd to the 5th stage of body tempering. He also confirms a few things. First, he discovers that the system can devour not just a cultivator's cultivation, but also pills, techniques, and spirit stones. After defeating Fang Hu, he searches the man and finds that Fang Hu had hidden several treasures. Yiyun devours these and notices that they can directly fuse into higher-grade pills within his body, thereby increasing his cultivation. The system informs him that a first-order gathering spirit pill has fused into a second-order gathering spirit pill, granting him an additional 500 experience points. Second, he learns that besides cultivators, demonic beasts are also prime targets for devouring. These beasts, ranked from 1st to 9th, correspond to the 9 great realms of cultivators. Devouring these beasts can rapidly enhance his cultivation. However, similar to devouring a cultivator's cultivation, the system must detect that the target is critically injured or near death. Fortunately, devouring non-living beings restores a certain amount of his stamina. Yiyun notices that the palm of his hand is already healing. Lastly, and most notably, the system comes equipped with perception and detection features, saving him considerable effort. The system alerted him to a new cluster of demonic beasts located 30 jang to the southwest. This made him realize that after eliminating this group of wild boars, he would advance to the 5th stage of body tempering. However, he understood that this was still far from sufficient for leveling up. Later that night, within the family compound, he acknowledged that he had consumed most of the demonic beasts in the outer rim of the Black Moon mountain range. Initially, he aimed to seize the opportunity to rapidly enhance his power. However, access to the inner circle required the collaborative efforts of the 3 primary clans. Consequently, he decided to explore alternative cultivation methods the next day. Yet, upon opening his house door, he was startled by an unexpected sight, and someone attacked him from behind. Luckily, he evaded the assault. He quickly glanced over his shoulder, inquiring who the assailant was. One of the men accused him of killing his associates, and Kuan, the son of an elder at the 6th stage of body tempering, chided him for his arrogance. He observed that, aside from Kuan, all the other cultivators had reached the 7th stage of body tempering. Kuan revealed that the soul-eroding corpse poison, which he had specially acquired from the southern frontier, had failed to kill him. Notably, Yiyun had also progressed to the 5th stage of body tempering in just 2 days. However, Kuan dismissed its significance, deeming it a divine opportunity. Then, Kuan lunged at him, intending to torment him personally. Unexpectedly, he swiftly grasped Kuan's hand, leaving Kuan stunned by his speed. When Kuan questioned the timing of his action, he merely smirked at Kuan and broke Kuan's hand, causing him to cry out like a bitch in agony. Kuen's men ran toward them immediately to help their master, but he merely tightened his grip on Kuen's hand while casting a glare at them. Kuen angrily labeled him a little animal and inquired how he could dare to break his arm. Then he declared that he was going to kill him. His men were also preparing to launch an attack on him, but he responded by kicking Kuen's leg and telling him not to worry because it was not just his arm that would be damaged. Subsequently, Kuen's leg broke and he continues to scream in pain. He asserted that Kuen's legs would not be spared either. One of the men initiated an attack on him, commanding him to release their master immediately. Ian answered, "As you wish," released his grip on Kuen, and quickly appearing behind the man so swiftly that he became visibly frightened at Ian's speed. Ian kicked the man with great force towards the others, also staring in shock. They couldn't even see him move. And Ian took a step forward. He smirked menacingly at them like bugs waiting to be squashed. Ikuen shouts for his men to catch Ian alive for their master. This prompted them to launch forward towards Ian, and Ian glared at them quietly. Then, he also dashes forward, facing them. And in mere seconds, they were all defeated. One man at the back, sweating profusely while holding his sword, questioned himself what was happening and how this young man could be so fast, being only at the 5th stage of the body tempering realm. As Ian dashes at them with an incredible speed, the man was shocked when he realized Ian was holding his neck, having not noticed him get so close. Ian then pushed him forcefully, causing him difficulty in breathing, and tossed him forcefully onto the ground. Kuen wondered fearfully how this was even possible, thinking that this couldn't be happening. Ian moved closer to the injured Kuen, who was anxiously warning him to stay away. Ian inquired if Kuen enjoyed the act of poisoning others, but Kuen only responded by loudly warning him not to approach, then utilized his fire poison palm skill to attack Kuen shouting in extreme pain following a large explosion. Nonetheless, Kuen told him that if he had the courage, he should finish him off. Otherwise, he would find him one day and exact revenge for the day's humiliation. Ian gripped Kuen's head and assured him that the opportunity for revenge would not be an option, which made Kuen start begging in fear. Ian activated his devouring skill, emitting a black aura that made Kuen scream and shudder in pain. A notification appeared, signaling that the enemy was identified as severely injured, and that his devouring was complete. He was then congratulated for acquiring 15,000 points and reaching the 6th stage of the body tempering realm. Kuen felt his cultivation levels waning and demanded to know what Ian had done to him. Ian retracted his hand while teasingly asking Kuen if he couldn't handle the situation. He informed Kuen that this was payback, a tenfold return for what he had done to him earlier. He then instructed Kuen to crawl out of his territory like a dog, posing the question to Kuen to see if he understood. In Kuen's perspective, Ian was nothing short of a devil. A moment later, within the Yi family's residence in Bayon City, specifically at the Patriarch's mansion, men were lying dead on the ground. One man tried to send out a quick message to summon the Grand Patriarch back home. Iyun was physically exhausted from having killed a substantial number of people, but emotionally he was pleased. Not only had he acquired a lot of cultivation experience on this particular journey, but he had also discovered the key to the Grand Patriarch's private treasure chamber. However, he was fully aware that he had damaged Yu Kuen's dantian, so when Kuen's father, Yi Chang, returned, he wouldn't let this transgression go unpunished. Yi Chang, who is Yu Kuen's father, also serves as the Grand Patriarch of the Yi family. He is a master at the 2nd stage of the Kai blood realm. However, he was currently only at the 6th stage of body tempering. Therefore, even if he were to utilize a 3-fold increase in attack speed, defeating Yi Chang would still present a formidable challenge. As a result, he recognized the urgency of elevating his own level of cultivation as quickly as possible. His system alerted him that a significant treasure was located 5 meters to his southeast. Following the direction, he approached a wall and used the key he had found within the Patriarch's residence. Upon doing so, the wall slowly lifted, revealing a hidden door. When he entered the room, his eyes met a trove of gold coins, books, antiques, jewels, and various other items. He immediately activated his devouring skill and proudly declared to Chang that all the treasure he had painstakingly accumulated over years was now his possession. The system rewarded him with 2,000 experience points for successfully devouring the Kawenwu Essence Grass, another 250 points for devouring 5 second-layer inter-elemental pills, and he also acquired the Spirit Glow Sword technique, which was of an advanced mysterious rank. These notifications continued to appear one after another until he had devoured every item in the room. Ultimately, the system congratulated him on achieving the 9th stage of body tempering. Examining his status, the system revealed that he was now in the 9th stage of body tempering. He had amassed 800 experience points out of the required 6,000 to break through to the first stage of the Kai Blood Realm. His repertoire of martial arts now included the Spirit Glow Sword technique of Advanced Mysterious rank, Fire Poison Palm of Advanced Mysterious rank, Tremor Stomp of Advanced Yellow rank, and Soundwave Roar of Intermediate Yellow rank. Although surprised, he felt that it was still more beneficial to consume pills for advancement. Then he was astonished when a notification appeared, announcing that he had discovered a 3rd-layer spiritual weapon, the Spirit Execution Sword. He had not anticipated that Chang would possess such a potent weapon. He promptly seized the sword, contemplating that a 3rd-layer spiritual weapon could stand up to a martial artist even in the Grandmaster realm. He instructed the system to store it, and a notification confirmed that the Spirit Execution Sword was safely stored in the system's storage space, available for retrieval at any time. He inspected his storage space and felt gratified that the system provided unlimited storage capacity. This meant he could store items for his personal use and also keep healing elixirs on hand for emergency situations. With a teasing laugh, he thought about how Chang would never have anticipated that his own weapon would eventually be used to kill him. The next morning, as he strolled near the river, he recognized that it was time to return to his home. He had devoured all the resources in the vicinity. Just then, he was located and approached by Wu Mo, the Yi family's butler. Wu Mo questioned why he was there and not resting in his designated room. Ignoring the inquiry, he learned from Wu Mo that the family master had returned and was actively searching for him. Meanwhile, back in the main house, Yi Wuxuang, the master of the Yi family, was coughing a lot of blood. A servant expressed deep concern, suggesting that due to the severity of his injuries, he should prioritize rest. Yi Wuxuang, however, refused to heed this advice. He was resolute that he could not rest until he had seen his son Yiyun. At that precise moment, Ian burst into the room, urgently calling out to his father with evident worry. Wuxuang, in disbelief, gladly asked Yiyun if he was really here, but Yiyun was shocked by his father's condition. He asked Wu what was going on and why his father was injured so badly. Wu replied that after he was poisoned, Wuxuang went to great lengths to find him an antidote. However, Wuxuang was seriously injured at that time because he entered the dangerous Misty Swamp to defeat the demonic beasts. Wuxuang told Wu to stop talking about it and ordered them to hurry and bring the mysterious elixir quickly. Wuxuang showed the mysterious elixir to him and told him to take it fast because it should be able to remove 30% of the poison after taking it. He looked at it, knowing that it was a 2nd-layer elixir and its effect lifted poison and raised cultivation level. Wuxuang told him that he would find a way to remove the rest of the poison from him, making him wonder if his father had actually risked his life for that mysterious elixir that only removed 30% of his poison. Wuxuang turned around coughing blood and told him not to be dazed and to take it immediately, making him realize that his father's dedication to the original owner was unwavering. Then he put his hand on Wuxuang's chest, making Wuxuang shocked and confused as he asked why his cultivation level had increased. He wondered if Yiyun was helping him heal his injuries. After that, he told Wuxuang that he had been enlightened by a master and the poison in his body had been lifted. He had also regained his cultivation and was already at the 9th stage of body tempering nowadays, so Wuxuang shouldn't worry about him anymore. He mentioned that he had a lot of healing elixirs with him, then gave his father a few and explained that he would recover after taking them. Wuxuang realized this and asked him in shock if that master had also given him those elixirs. He replied, no, and told them that he had ransacked Chang's treasury, leaving them frozen in shock. He also mentioned that it wasn't just that, he had destroyed Kuan's Dantian, rendering him unable to cultivate from now on. This news shocked them in horror, and they asked him if he had truly ransacked the Grand Patriarch's treasury and destroyed Kuan's Dantian. Silently, they thought that he had picked a fight with the Grand Patriarch's family without considering the consequences and their master would be angry, but then Wuxuang laughed loudly, leaving them confused. Wuxuang praised Yiyun, saying that he had done well and he hadn't expected his son to do something so impressive during his time away. He added that he expected it because Yiyun was his son, making Wu and the server boy shake in fear. They told Wuxuang that it was not the time to praise Yiyun, but then Wuxuang told them that he had turned Chang's son into a cripple and Chang wouldn't spare him. He also mentioned that, despite being the head of the Yi family, he had been ostracized by Chang over the years because his cultivation had stagnated at the 1st stage of the Kai Blood Realm. 5 of the 8 patriarchs had decided to side with Chang, and they might want him as the head of the Yi family. He cautioned him to be careful in the future as they might be assassinated by these treacherous men. He assured his father not to worry because if they dared to come there, he would make sure they couldn't leave alive. Suddenly, someone kicked their gate open and shouted for the people inside to listen up. Wuxuan angrily asked who was there. The man asked if he was Master Yi and told them that the Grand Patriarch had ordered the entire clan to attend the council chamber immediately with no delays tolerated. Yun just glared at the men. Meanwhile, in the council chamber, a man reported to Chang that not only had Yun beaten up their men, but he had also tortured their young master, Kuan, and had ransacked their treasury. Chang was furious, and the man shakily begged him to avenge their young master, Kuan. Chang angrily shouted that he would break Yun into pieces while others in the room looked on. Yiming, the second patriarch of the Yi family, angrily asked how dare Yun lay hands on his fellow clan members, shouting that Yun was truly bold and worse than a bastard. Suddenly, someone burst through the council chamber door and Ming angrily asked who was there and how dare they make trouble here. They were shocked to see that the people they had sent to the Yi master's house were dead, and Yun told them that they were the ones who had attacked his clan members first. Chang angrily told him that he hadn't even bowed when meeting a patriarch and that he was getting unruly. Yun responded by saying that Chang was the one not following the rules, and now he was reminding him of them. Yun angrily asked about Chang's qualifications and whether he deserved to stand in his father's place, which further fueled Chang's anger. Still, he teasingly asked Chang if he was speechless because he had a point. But then, someone with a lot of people arrived and Wuxuan asked Yun if he was late. He told his father that he was not late because the show was just about to begin. Then, Wuxuan asked Chang what he meant by his actions today, and if he was trying to rebel by being so blatantly partisan. But Chang just laughed at Wuxuan and told him that his qualifications are mediocre. He asked him if he thinks he can be the head of the family if he doesn't have a good background. Then, Chang showed his power while telling them that he thinks the position of the head of the family should be held by someone who is capable and asked the people around him for their opinions. Ming replied that the Grand Patriarch was right, and the other two patriarchs fearfully replied that the position should be held by someone who is capable and they are willing to serve the Grand Patriarch. Wuxuan asked them why they were agreeing to it, but the patriarchs were silent in fear while apologizing to their master in their heads because their wife and son's lives were in Chang's hands. Then, Chang told Wuxuan that if he kills his troublesome son now, he will have mercy and spare his life, but Ian just teasingly asked Chang if he wants to be the head of the family. Then, in a flash, he appeared behind Chang while telling him that he'll see how much the Grand Patriarch can do. Chang immediately looked back and told him that he was out of his depth, but he just used his fire poison palm to attack him, and Chang used his dark wind palm to strike back. Their palms met, leaving the patriarchs and the people around them wondering how Yun could have fought the Grand Patriarch, who was in the second stage of the Kai blood realm, to a draw. Chang called him a brat, and Yun teasingly asked Chang if he could hold out because he had a lot of surprises in store for him. Then he summoned his sword and grabs it. Chang, who was shocked because he recognized it as his own sword. He stabbed the sword at its owner using his threefold attack speed, which left Chang in shock. When he pulled the sword out, Chang coughed up blood and fell to the ground, bleeding, shocking the people, and causing them to shout that Yun had killed the Grand Patriarch. Then he asked Chang how it felt to die by his own sword. Then someone appeared behind him to attack. He was shocked to feel someone behind him, and the man attacked, denting the floor in the process. Fortunately, he managed to avoid it, while the man told him that not only had he ruined Yu family's preferred son-in-law, Yi Kuan, but now he had recklessly killed Chang. He asked Yun if he was completely disregarding their Yi family. Wuxuan wordly asked him if he was okay, and he replied that he was alright. He knows that the Yang family is one of the 4 great families holding a powerful position in King Yang country. He remembers that not long ago, Kuan wanted to have a marriage with the Yang family. So, the Yang family not only wanted the Yi family to join their family, but also asked the entire Yi family to shed their original surnames, becoming a subsidiary family of the Yang family. He was disappointed to remember it, but figured out that no wonder that old man Chang was so arrogant. He asked if it could be that Chang was trying to flatter the Yang family. Then he told the man that his Yu family isn't a prestigious family, but they wouldn't do such a shabby thing. The man angrily called him an arrogant brat and told him that if he cut his throat now to apologize, he could let his father, Wuxuan, die in peace. But then, someone appeared and told the man not to bullshit Yun and let him tackle that brat first. After that, behead his father before they go back and report the situation to the head of their family. Then the man summoned his sword and jumped to attack Iyun while telling him to prepare for his death. But Iyun just caught the man's sword using his 2 fingers to stop the man's attack, making the man shocked and realized that he was unable to move. He told the man that it looked like the 3rd stage of the Kai blood realm was not that powerful. Then Iyun, with his sword, slashed in the man's direction, making the man scream in pain as his face was split in 2. His counterpart warily called his brother, and the patriarch was shocked, asking how that could be possible. Ming asks him if he is crazy and how could he kill the Grand Patriarch and also the Yang family's emissary. But he just tells them that he is giving them back exactly what they tried to do to him, and if anyone wants to kill him, he will kill them back. Then he showed them his spirit glow sword technique that released a swarm of swords in mid-air, making the patriarchs open their mouths in shock. He told them that he was going to give them 2 choices. They could either obey his father and pledge their allegiance to him, or he will shred them to pieces. Then he called the man and told him that his brother was so loyal to Master Yang, so he too wouldn't want to surrender, right? The man glared at him, saying a firm no, so he snapped his fingers, understanding the man's gaze, and attacked the man with a swarm of swords. The man shielded himself in time, but he noticed that it was an outburst of sword energy and he couldn't hold out much longer. In the end, the man was pierced by the 1,000 swords, and he teasingly told the man that he had chosen the right way for him. Then the man collapsed dead next to his brother's corpse. Then he activated his devouring skill, and the notification showed that he had successfully absorbed every bit of cultivation, gaining 60,000 experience points. Congratulations, he reached the 2nd stage of the Kai blood realm, and his skill points have increased. Now, he can use a 5-fold attack speed. Seeing this, he realized that he could boost his attack speed every time he broke through a realm. Ming was filled with fear, thinking that Chang had been killed, and the 2 Yang family emissaries were instantly slain. He wondered when Yin had become so powerful. For now, he understood they had no choice. He knelt on the floor and bowed, expressing their willingness to serve him. They knew that if they didn't obey Yin today, they would surely be killed. Yin, however, told them that those who were forced to follow Chang could offset their mistakes by helping to completely eradicate Chang's remaining party. As for the 5 traitors, he wanted them to be stripped of their cultivation and imprisoned in the dungeon, where they wouldn't be released until they were dead, leaving Ming and the 4 traitors' patriarchs shocked. Then, the guards captured the 5 traitors, and as they were captured, Ming told Yin that he had been too arrogant and made enemies too hastily. He also mentioned that if news of today's incident reached Qingyang County, the Yang family would certainly not spare him. The Yi family would eventually be ruined by him. Wu Shuang asked if he was hurt, and Yin replied that he was okay, so he should not worry and all of Chang's men had been cleared out, so no one would come after them anymore. Wu Shuang proudly remarked that Yin had grown up and was acting like the head of the family. He would be relieved if the position of family head was passed on to him in the future. Yin, however, asked his father when the secret black moon would be unsealed. Wu Shuang replied that there were still 10 days until the 3 great families joined forces to unseal the secret black moon. Wu Shuang inquired about the reason for his interest. He remembered that the secret Black Moon was located in the deepest part of the Black Moon mountain range, a secret cave left behind by powerful individuals long ago. It was guarded by the 3 great families of Bayon City. He knew that the cave was full of spiritual aura and inhabited by many strong demonic beasts, as well as containing numerous precious and rare treasures. It was an excellent sanctuary for martial artists to cultivate. To prevent its resources from being depleted by endless scavenging, the 3 great families of Bayon City had sealed the cave 100 years ago. They agreed that it could only be unsealed once every 3 years. At that time, the 3 great families could send powerful disciples to enter the cave, cultivate, and seize treasures. The current Yang family had multiple Kai blood realm masters, and it was rumored that the Yang family's eldest Yang master, Yang Longshan, was a peak Kai blood realm master. Yang believed that if he were to challenge Longshan, he needed to increase his strength, and it seemed a trip to the secret Black Moon was in order. The next morning, he ventured into a nearby fall, diving deep in pursuit of something on the lake's floor. He soon realized that the treasure was hidden beneath the deep bed of the lake. Thankfully, he had taken a water avoidance pill. The system then alerted him to the scent of treasure in the south direction. He swam in that direction and descended when he spotted the massive treasure. As he touched the treasure, he couldn't help but notice the incredible power hidden beneath that spirit pool. When the notification congratulated him on gaining 4,000 experience points, he immediately swam back up, taking the treasure with him. This newfound wealth had elevated him to the third stage of the Kai blood realm, all thanks to devouring the treasure. The system displayed his progress, showing he had reached the third stage of the Kai blood realm, with 150,000 experience points out of 300,000, and was on the brink of breaking through to the fourth stage. His weapon was a spirit execution sword, his technique was inherited, and his divine ability was the million times attack speed, currently demonstrated at 5-fold attack speed. He quickly emerged from the water, catching his breath. However, he was taken aback when he saw a woman in a stunning bathrobe, looking equally confused. The lady immediately covered her chest and accused him of being a pervert. Angrily, she chased after him while he tried to explain the misunderstanding. She called him names and threatened him, but he managed to stop her from attacking. He reassured her that it was all a misunderstanding. However, the lady coughed up blood and fell onto him, prompting him to inquire about her well-being. She painfully asked him to get off, and he noticed a sword wound on her shoulder. At that moment, he heard the sound of approaching horses and a man shouting to his companions that he had found her. He ordered them to capture her. A bald man then drew his sword and informed Yin that the beautiful lady was a target of the wild horse gang. He advised Yin to leave if he knew what was good for him, warning that he would use his saber to kill him otherwise. He was aware that the wild horse gang was a notorious group of thieves that operated around Bayan City. They were known for their frequent looting and various criminal activities in the city. The bald man warned Yin that he had given him fair warning, but once his saber was drawn, there was no hope for Yin to survive. However, Yin swiftly moved behind the bald man while holding the injured lady and explained that it was a coincidence because he was in the same situation. The bald man turned around in shock, but before he could launch an attack, Yin stabbed the man in the chest. The sudden attack caused the man's horse to bolt in fear, throwing off all the items the man had been carrying. The other members of the gang were shocked to see their boss killed, but Yin informed them that the rest of them were only in the first stage of the Kai blood realm, so they shouldn't waste any more time. However, one of the men shouted to his comrades to avenge their boss, making Yin realize that they were clearly outmatched. Yin easily dispatched the men who had surrounded him. The system then detected 7 individuals that could be devoured, along with a large number of treasures they were carrying. Yin couldn't believe that the system could devour them all at once, but he activated his Devour skill, realizing that it would save him a lot of time. The system informed him that he had completely devoured the group and gained 220,000 experience points, congratulating him on breaking through to the 4th stage of the Kai blood realm. Yin walked away, leaving the dead bodies behind, reflecting that although they were all criminals, the good thing was that there were many of them, which had helped him break through to the next realm. A moment later, as he walked, the lady asked him to wait for her. She expressed her gratitude for saving her and healing her wounds. She admitted that she had misunderstood him earlier and introduced herself as Kinyao. She inquired about his name and where he was from. Yun replied that his name was Yi Yun, a member of the Yi family in Bayan City. He told her she was welcome and mentioned the wild horse gang's numerous crimes as the reason for his actions. Kinyao realized that he was from the Yi family and shared that she was from the Kayan sect in Kinong County. She had come with the sect's elders to recruit outstanding disciples. Just as she was about to ask Yin if he was interested in applying, fireworks suddenly lit up the sky. Yin knew that something had happened and immediately ran towards that direction, shouting to Kinyao that he would see her soon. This left Kinyao shocked and questioning where he was going. A minute later, he arrived at their house and was shocked to see their people lying on the ground, injured. He kneeled down to Wu and asked what was going on there and who attacked them. But then someone asked him if he was Yu Yi Yun and told him that he was the one who ruined the marriage between the Yi and Yang families and killed 2 of his deacons. The 6th level of Kai blood realm, chief steward of the Yang family, Yang Qingmu, told him that he was pretty bold for a loser who had lost his cultivation. Then Wu Shuang, who was injured, told him to go and escape. But he just asked Qingmu if he was talking about him and told Qingmu that he might as well pray for himself that he won't have a painful death later. Then he attacked them using his skill, making the men of Qingmu shocked because he was so fast. One of the men near Wu Shuang got hit in the stomach and wondered what it was, but then another man on the side shook in fear and shouted that his legs were cut off, making Qingmu and the other men stunned in shock. He teasingly told them that the Yang family is quite slow at receiving intelligence, while the men behind Qingmu wondered what happened because they didn't even see when he drew his sword. Qingmu wondered when did that rumored loser become so strong. He immediately went to his father and asked if he was all right, to which Wu Shuang replied yes. While he was checking his father's injury, Qingmu thought that although he was only at the 4th level of the Kai blood realm, his martial arts skills were amazing and his talent rivaled that of the Yang family's geniuses. So Qingmu called him a bastard, saying that he was indeed pretty good. But it doesn't matter if that puppet Chang dies, because if he can replace Kuan and join the Yang family, you can consider sparing the lives of the Yi family. He teasingly asked Qingmu if he will really spare their lives and if he deserves to say such things, making Qingmu angry, telling Yi not to be cocky and that he'd like to see what he can really do today. Then Qingmu launched toward him, using his Qing Hong sword technique to attack him. But he just shouted at Qingmu to come to him and used his spirit execution sword technique to attack back. Suddenly, someone appeared out of nowhere and got down in the center of them, telling them to wait for a minute. The old man told them to listen to him, making Qingmu irritatedly ask the old man who he was. But then Qingmu noticed that he was Elder Q and respectfully asked why he was there. The other men were also shocked to see Elder Q Kong Yuan of the Kaiyuan sect, a master of the first stage of the Grandmaster realm. They all knew that the Kaiyuan sect was a prestigious sect, and there were many other top-tier martial king realm powerhouses in the sect. Q replied that he had come there to return a favor to Mr. Yang, and out of his private interest, he wondered if Yang was interested in joining the Kaiyuan sect. This made Qingmu shocked because he had heard that the Kaiyuan sect would only accept disciples once in 100 years, and the threshold for joining the sect was extremely harsh. He knew that the elders would not easily come out to recruit disciples, and it was a valuable opportunity that no one would turn down. However, Yang apologized to Q because he was not interested and told Q that he had always enjoyed disciplining people and dogs while pointing his sword at Qingmu. Qingmu angrily launched an attack on him, calling him a loudmouth brute and telling him that he was just looking for death. But Q pushed back Qingmu's sword and asked if he didn't seem to understand what he had just said or if he wanted to be an enemy of the Kaiyuan sect. Qingmu immediately replied that he was not, while wondering if it was the aura of a Grandmaster Realm Master because he felt that it was so powerful. Then Qingmu put his sword back in its sheath and told Yang that they should forget about that day. He warned him that if he set foot in Qingyang County someday, he'd have his head. Then Qingmu told his men that they should go, but Yang asked Qingmu if he had told them to leave. Then he immediately disappeared and appeared behind Qingmu in a flash to attack using his 5-fold attack speed skill, while telling him that he should leave behind the hand that hurt his father. Qingmu looked behind to attack him back, but he just grabbed Qingmu's hand and twisted it backward, making Qingmu shout in pain while holding his dislocated hand. Qingmu angrily launched an attack toward him using his remaining hand, but he just calmly apologized because he thought he had made a mistake and asked Qingmu if he should take another hand. Then he speedily cut off Qingmu's hand and told him that he could go now. Q told Qingmu that he shouldn't fight back or he'd pay the consequences, making Qingmu cuss in his mind and shakingly tell Yang that he, Yang Qingmu, would remember today's shame and would pay back twice as much in the future. But he just teasingly told Qingmu that he was not qualified to do so. Then the Yang's men immediately ran out of the family territory. Wu Shuang told him that luckily he came back in time, otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Then Wu Shuang thanked Q for relieving them. But Q told him that there was no need to be formal because that girl Yao repeatedly told him to thank Yi Yuan for saving her life and shouting that she had found a supreme genius. Then Q gave Yang a badge of his token and told him that if he changed his mind one day and wanted to practice in the Qi Yuan sect, he could use that badge to exempt himself from the test and join the sect. Yang thought the secret Black Moon was about to unseal, and he was not going to leave that place in the meantime. However, he thanked Q for the offer, knowing that if he wanted to increase his cultivation faster, he needed to gain more experience points, and sooner or later, he was going to leave that area. So he could have an alternative path if he so chose with that badge. Q told him that he was out of there and speedily vanished, leaving behind thick smoke. But then one of the men reported to them that although there were no deaths among the clan members in that incident, those who wanted to join the secret Black Moon before were seriously injured. So he was afraid they wouldn't be able to participate in the secret Black Moon 7 days from now. He told his father not to worry because he had some useful treasures here. Then he released a lot of them, making his father shocked and asked if those were top-tier healing elixirs. Wu Shuang also asked him where he got them, and he replied that he got those by chance. But the truth is he had collected some of those thieves' healing elixirs and stored them in the system for backup. Now was the perfect time to use them. Then he told his people that those elixirs not only help them quickly recover from injuries, but also help with breaking through, and those who are capable can explore the secret Black Moon with him in 7 days, making the people cheer for him and agree. 7 days later, in Black Moon Mountain Range, Iyun, with his father and his people, arrived at the entrance of the secret Black Moon. He excitedly looked at the entrance, but then someone told Wushuang that it had been a long time since they last saw him, making them confused. When they looked back, they saw Zhu Yunlei, the 6th stage of the Kai blood realm, with Zhu Xing, the young master of the Zhu family, asking them why the Grand Patriarchy Chang wasn't there, as he remembered in past years that Chang was the one who led the clan. Wushuang replied that he was embarrassed to tell them that Chang, the trash, had been removed from their family. But Jin Yufeng, the 7th stage of the Kai blood realm and master of the Jin family, together with his son Jin Tianlong, asked if this was the level of team that the great Yu family could afford to send out. They told them that it seemed the Yi family was in decline. Yunlei told Yufeng that he couldn't say that because the Yi family had upgraded their team compared to previous years, and he guessed they didn't need their special care anymore this year. Then he reminded them that after all, the Yi family was attacked by spirit beasts after entering the secret Black Moon before, and if it weren't for their people who saved them, they would have died inside. Ian told Yunlei that he was wrong on that point because special care was still needed, but they were the ones who would give them special care that year. Making the two families shocked and noticed that all of the Yi participants were at the 3rd stage of the Kai blood realm and asked if any of them had reached the 4th stage of the Kai blood realm. Yufeng wondered how the Yi family members had broken through the realm in only a few short days, and Yunlei wondered what was going on. He asked them why the two masters were so surprised and when they were going to unseal that secret Black Moon. Yufeng told them that they would see who was the strongest when they enter the secret Black Moon, while thinking that although he didn't know why the Yi family had become so strong, they were not yet a match for the Zheng family. But Yun just teasingly told Yufeng that they should wait and see. Then the 3 masters began to open the secret Black Moon and together unsealed the seal in the entrance. A powerful light came out of the secret Black Moon entrance, and Xing with the Zhu family members immediately ran to enter the secret Black Moon, but Tianlong with the Zheng family members immediately ran after Zhu's family members, shouting that he wouldn't let them get a head start. Yun, the representative of the Yi family, just calmly told his members that they should go, to which they gladly obeyed. Then the 3 families with their representatives entered the secret Black Moon together. A minute later, they entered the interior of the secret Black Moon. The Yi members happily shouted that there was abundant spiritual energy there, and that if they used those spirit herbs to aid in their cultivation, their strength would definitely increase greatly. They knew it was due to the fact that their young master Ian chose a good path, otherwise, they couldn't reap a full harvest today. Then the system showed Iyun that there were many sacred treasures a kilometer to the northwest, making him think that with the guidance of the system, it would be a breeze for him to find the treasures in that secret Black Moon. Then he told his people that they should go because they had to get back before sundown, to which they all agreed. They speedily ran in the other direction without noticing a man behind them. One of the men told his young master Xing that they must move faster, or the treasures would all be taken by the Yi family, but Xing just told his people that the Yi family was just a bunch of idiots who ran fast, and that those scapegoats could scout the way for him up front. So if there was any danger ahead, they would have to deal with it. As for the treasures, if he killed them all at the last minute, the treasures would all be his. One of his men told him that if they killed Iyun there, the Yi family wouldn't spare them. But Xing just laughed loudly and asked his people how the Yi family could have proved that they did it when that secret territory was full of crises and beasts. The Zhu members bowed to Xing and told him that he was wise. Then he told his people that at that time, as long as they say that a beast did it, no one would know that they killed Iyun. But suddenly, Iyun appeared behind him and put the sword near his neck while asking if he meant like this. The Zhu men ordered him to release their young master immediately, and Xing told his people to rest assured because he was the young master of the Zhu family, so he bet Iyun wouldn't be that bold and definitely wouldn't dare. But Iyun slashed Xing's neck a little, making the Zhu members shocked and launching to kill him. He simply swung his sword toward them and told them that they were a bunch of weaklings, sending the Zhu members, together with Xing, flying away. Xing angrily asked him how dare he, but he asked Xing back why wouldn't he dare to, and told him that not only did he dare to hurt him, but he was going to kill him. Xing tried to stand up while telling him that if he dared to kill him today, his father would never spare him, and when the time came, he'd want his entire Yu family to be buried with him. Ian told him that he was right, however, he asked Xing how the Zhu family could have proved that he killed him, making Xing angry. But he also told Xing that in his opinion, the secret territory was full of crises and beasts, so at that time, as long as they said that a beast did it, no one would know that they killed him. Hearing this, Xing was scared shitless and immediately began to run away, thinking that Yun was insane and he needed to escape fast. But Yun grabbed Xing's head easily and told him not to rush off. Then he used his devouring skill to devour Xing's cultivation while telling him that he hadn't given him special care yet. A moment later, in the interior of the secret Black Moon, one of the E members cut the wolf's head off and said that it was the last one, while the others were collecting the loot quickly. One of the men told him that the beast crystals of the second-grade demonic wolf pack had all been collected and asked him if they should move on. He silently thought for a moment while looking at his system status and noticed that his advancement speed was too slow, even though he had devoured the Zhu family's team along with many spirit treasures along the way, and had broken through to the 5th level of the Kai blood realm. His experience points were still not enough. Then the system popped up, showing him that there were 3rd-grade spirit elixirs and verdant fruits at a location 300 meters to the southwest, making him shocked because he knew that treasures like these could only be obtained by a Grandmaster Realm martial artist. He speedily jumped away while ordering them all to stay there on standby and told them that he'd be back in a while, to which they all agreed. He knew that sacred treasures were bound to be surrounded and protected by ferocious beasts, so it was better for them not to follow him into danger. A moment later, he arrived at the bottom of the cliff in the secret Black Moon and saw the verdant sacred fruits and 3rd-grade spirit elixirs hanging on the tree, but being guarded by bats. He knew that these bats were gloomy wind bats, a 3rd-grade demonic beast, and he was really curious how strong these so-called interior demonic beasts were. Then he immediately jumped off the tree branches and launched toward the bats while shouting that they could contribute to his experience points. The bats welcomed him with their sonic attacks, but he used his Soundwave Roar skill to attack back and hit a few bats that were in the front. The other bats continuously used their sonic skill to attack him, but fortunately, he avoided it and slashed the bats that were in his way. After killing them all, he flew straight to where the verdant sacred fruits were. However, just as he landed, a huge beast appeared under him, ready to swallow him whole. He jumped away in time to avoid it, only to find himself surrounded by a lot of black-scaled gators, 3rd-grade demonic beasts. He jumped off his sword and landed back on it, telling them that he'd deal with them first. He forcefully pierced his sword into the ground using his weight and used his Tremor Stomp skill to attack the gators near him all at once. Then he jumped away, and his sword immediately followed him, attacking the gator in its way. He shouted sword, and it went into his hand. Then he activated his Spirit Glow Sword technique, creating a huge shining tornado with it. The tornado grabbed the beasts inside and slowly killed them with its sharp edges, breaking the ground in the process. When he deactivated it, all of the beasts were pierced and killed at once. He landed on the ground and knew that it was time for him to devour all of them. After that, the notification showed that he had completed the mass devouring and gained a total of 500,000 experience points. It congratulated him for breaking through to the 7th stage of the Kai blood realm, making him say that it was not bad because his cultivation had gone up 2 levels. He was grateful to the group of demonic beasts and was about to get the verdant sacred fruits, knowing that they were his. But then he felt something launching behind him, so he immediately jumped away to avoid it in time. Tianlong, with his people, told him that he had his eyes on those verdant sacred fruits, so if he knew what was good for him, he should get out of there. But he just asked Tianlong if he thought he could do anything to him. Tianlong jumped forward to attack him while angrily asking how dare a loser like him be so arrogant. But he stopped Tianlong's weapon without making any effort and teasingly asked if that was all he had got, leaving Tianlong shocked and confused. He told Tianlong that he was a disappointment, then he slightly tapped Tianlong's side, and Tianlong was thrown away hard, coughing up blood. He slammed into the wall hard, breaking it in the process, making Jin's members wordly call their young master. He told Tianlong that if he laid a hand on what he wanted, he'd lose his life. But Tianlong just angrily told him that it was interesting, then showed a small pill in his hand, saying he wouldn't get out of there alive today. Tianlong ate the small red pill, which left him confused. Suddenly, Tianlong transformed into a beast-like mode, his body slowly becoming bigger and breaking the ground he was standing on in the process. Tianlong teasingly told him that he would die today. One of the Jin men asked his comrade what their young master had eaten, and the man replied that it was a 2nd-grade Kai blood elixir. Those who ate it could briefly increase their strength 3-fold, so Yin would definitely die today. Tianlong grabbed his weapon from the ground and jumped in front of him to attack while telling him that if he got down on his knees right now and called him daddy, he'd have mercy and spare his life. but he just smiled and told Tianlong to enjoy the last minute of his life because he would make him cry and go to his father. Meanwhile, outside the secret Black Moon, one of the masters said that they would be back soon, and Wuxiang silently worried about Yin. Yunlei teasingly asked Wuxiang why he was so quiet and if he was worried about his son's safety. Then Yunlei told them that there were so many monsters inside that it was common for people who went in to come out injured. Even if they didn't run into demonic beasts, there were still fights between the teams for the secret treasures. Yifeng laughingly agreed and told them that they were all on their own, so if they got hurt or lost their lives, it was because they were too weak. Yunlei also teasingly told them that since those were the rules laid down by their old ancestors, they had to abide by them, and they hoped Wuxiang he wouldn't hold it against them. Wuxiang replied that Yunlei was right and that he did worry about his son. However, he was not so much worried about Yin's safety as he was worried that Yin was having so much fun that he didn't want to stop. Suddenly, they heard a loud scream from inside the secret Black Moon. Then Tianlong and the members of Jin's family were thrown outside, making Yifeng wordly call his son's name. Yifeng caught his son and asked him if he was alright and what was going on. But Tianlong just told his father that he was in pain and that it was Yin. Yifeng touched his son's body and noticed that all of his son's bones were broken. Yin and his people came out, and he told Yifeng that his good son was crying for him inside, so he was kind enough to bring him out to see him, and there was no need to thank him. But Yifeng just told his son to say something and furiously told Yin that he was going to shred him to pieces. Yunlei furiously asked him what was going on, why only the Yi family came out of the secret realm, and where the Zhu family was. Yin replied that he'd like to give them special care, but the secret realm was so dangerous that he couldn't take good care of them, and asked Yunlei what he thought he should do. Yunlei angrily told him that it must be his setting up his son, otherwise, why hadn't they come out of the secret realm? Then Yunlei asked Yinfeng why he was still in a daze and told him that if they didn't kill that brat Yin now, he'd be a scourge later. Wuxiang asked Yunlei what he meant, and if he was trying to break the rules that were set before, but Yunlei just told Wuxiang not to blame him and showed his power while shouting that he must kill that brat today. But before he could attack, Yin grabbed his neck and told him that if he didn't want to play by the rules, then he wouldn't play nice. Then he squeezed Yunlei's neck hard, blood gushing out from it, leaving Yinfeng shocked and unable to believe that Yin had instantly killed Yunlei. Yin let go of Yunlei's dead body on the ground and thanked Yifeng for waiting. Then he told him that it was his turn, but Yifeng attacked him while telling him not to be arrogant. He simply swung his sword to block the attack, but suddenly Yifeng appeared behind him, ready to kick him while shouting at him that he was gonna kick his ass. But he just blocked Yinfeng's foot using his sword and called Yinfeng a wanker. Then he speedily disappeared, leaving Yifeng shocked and appeared on top of Yinfeng, making Yifeng ask him how he had dodged his attack in an instant. He swung his sword to attack Yinfeng while replying that it was because he was moving too slowly, but Yifeng blocked his attack while shouting that he couldn't make out Yan's attacks. Suddenly, he appeared in front of Yinfeng and asked if that was all he had got. Then he kicked Yifeng back onto the ground, causing Yinfeng's spear to shatter into pieces. He immediately flew toward Yifeng and slashed him continuously while shouting at him. Yifeng collapsed severely injured on the ground, and the E members couldn't believe that their young master was so strong. Yifeng shakily told Yin that he hadn't expected to be defeated by him. However, he told Wuxiang that the three great families had stood in by Yin City for 100 years and had always been in harmony. Now that harmony had been destroyed by the Yi family, and he asked Wuxiang if their two families joined forces, could he withstand it? Yin told Yifeng that he was right, and Yifeng told him that if he spared his life today, he'd obey the Yi family from now on, and he could still pull strings in the Zhu family for him. But he just told Yifeng that the three great families had lived in peace in Bayan City for too long. So from that day on, there would only be one main family in Bayan City, and it was the Yi family, making Yinfeng angrily ask what he had said. He angrily reminded Yinfeng that the Zhu family and the Zheng family had used the secret trials to explicitly and implicitly brutalized many of his Yu family's compatriots over the years and asked him if he thought he didn't remember it. Then he used his devouring skill to devour Yinfeng's cultivation while telling him that since they were so close, paired with Zhu, they should go to hell together. Yifeng told him to wait and that he couldn't, but he just devoured him alive, making him shout in pain and die instantly. Meanwhile, in Bayan City, at Zhu's mansion, Jin and other men were guarding outside the house. Then a man named Han Lai, the second in command of the Wild Horse Gang, who was in the 8th stage of the Kai blood realm, angrily asked how long they had to wait. Zhu Tianhao, Zhu Yunlei's brother, who was in the 5th stage of the Kai blood realm, told Han Lai to take a break and explained that since their master hadn't given the signal yet, they might as well wait a little longer. However, Han Lai angrily told him that since they had hired the Wild Horse Gang, didn't he trust that they could take down the Zheng and Yi families? He asked if Tianwu didn't trust him and everyone in the Wild Horse Gang. Tianwu assured Han Lai that he trusted his martial arts skills, but to keep things on track, they must wait for their master's plan to succeed before he explained that each family had selected the elites of their family to seize the treasure in the secret realm. Their plan was that once the secret Black Moon's treasure was over, the Zheng family would let their guard down and his master would deal a fatal blow to Zheng Yefeng. At that point, they would go for support. As for the Yi family, they were no match for them at all, so they just needed to kill the masters of the two families and their main force. The rest of the clan members would obediently obey them. Han Lai replied that he understood now and commented that the dirty tricks the so-called prestigious and righteous people use were much dirtier than theirs. Tianwu agreed, saying that it didn't matter what means were used as long as the desired end was achieved. However, he cautioned Han Lai that if the mayor found out about it, they might have to ask him to take the fall for them. Han Lai assured him not to worry and said that since he had been paid for it, he would handle the rest. Then, Han Lai swung his sword in Tianwu's direction and warned him that his saber liked blood the most, so he shouldn't try to stop him when he started killing later. He told Han Lai that if he could help him kill the Zheng and Yu family clans today, he'd be more than happy to do so. He asked Han Lai how he could stop him. Han Lai confidently said that today, he was going to show them what the Wild Horse Gang was all about. But suddenly, Ian appeared in front of them and told them that they couldn't wipe out his Yu family with that level of martial arts. Han Lai angrily asked who was there and Tianwu noticed that it was the young master of the Yi family, and Han Lai pointed their swords toward Yun, wondering when he had come in. They told Yun that since he had come there of his own accord, he should meet his death. Tianwu jumped to attack him, together with Han Lai, but Yun simply jumped back to avoid their attack. He swung his sword forward to counterattack, telling them not to flatter themselves. His attack hit Han Lai's head, killing him instantly. Then he kicked Tianwu, causing him to cough up blood and be thrown a great distance. Han Lai's men and Ju's men hurriedly ran toward him to kill him, but he jumped toward them, declaring that none of them would live today. Then he brutally killed all the men he saw in that house. Seconds later, Tianwu was running outside in a panic, shoutingly asking if there was anyone there. But when he stepped outside, he was shocked to see many men dead on the ground. Suddenly, a man was thrown hard onto the ground, making him fall and fearfully ask how this was possible. Ian appeared next to him and said that he had forgotten to tell him his men had gone down to hell. Tianwu looked at all of his people, along with Han Lai's men, lying dead on the ground. He also tells Tianwu that the Zhu family, the Zheng family, and the Wild Horse Gang made 3 fatal mistakes. Tianwu, shocked to hear this, immediately threw something at him while shouting at him not to come near. However, he effortlessly stopped the sharp weapon with his power and told Tianwu that the first mistake was that they shouldn't have messed with the Yi family, leaving Tianwu stunned in shock. He then simply crushed the sharp weapon with his bare hand and told Tianwu that the second mistake was thinking they were qualified to mess with the Yi family. The third mistake, he said, was that they happened to meet the vindictive Yun. Tianwu, shouting, tells him that it's useless to kill them today if the mayor pursues the matter, the Yi family will be doomed. But he just slashed at Tianwu's head, telling him that anyone who does not submit must die today. Tianwu then collapsed on the ground, head first. Wuxiang arrives and he tells his father that he is just in time. He then tells Wuxiang that he'll leave the rest to him because he has to go to the Zheng family. A servant asks Wuxiang if Yun is still the young master they know, and Wuxiang replies that he is just worried Yun is having too much fun and doesn't want to stop. 3 days later, a lot of gold, jewelry, and other precious items are being carried into their palace. Wu Mo reports to them that the Zhu and Zheng families' forces involved in the assassination attempt on the Yi family's disciples have been purged. Nowadays, all the clans in Bayan City indicate that they will look up to the Yi family. Wu Mo then shows them the swarm of treasures and reports that it was what they got from the raid. He thanked Wu Mo for his efforts and Wu Mo replied that it was his pleasure. Wuxiang tells him that they were able to dodge a bullet this time because of his vigilance. If it wasn't for his quick decision, he feared that the Yi family would have completely disappeared from Bayou City. Suddenly, a man rushed into the palace, shoutingly calling for Wuxiang. He then kneeled on the ground and reported that the mayor had invited Yun to the mayor's residence for questioning. Later, he arrived at the mayor's residence. The guards assisted him, mentioning that the mayor had been waiting for a long time. On the compound, he noticed that the mayor's mansion was heavily guarded. He saw a lady telling his father that the person they were discussing had arrived, making him wonder if that man was the mayor. Then, he respectfully introduced himself as Yi Yun of the Yi family and greeted the mayor. However, he was shocked when a flurry of sharp blades suddenly flew toward him. Fortunately, he shielded himself in time and angrily asked the mayor what his intentions were. The mayor commented that his martial arts skills were good and his reflexes were quick. The mayor, Fong Lei, was at the first stage of the Grandmaster realm, and Fong Lei's daughter, Fong Yalan, possessed the 9th stage of the Kai blood realm. Fong Lei has noted that Yi Yun had reached the 9th stage of the Kai blood realm at such a young age, which enabled him to delete the 2 great families, the Zhu family and the Zheng family, making him indeed powerful. Yi Yun asked Lei if he was provoking him, but Lei countered by asking what Yi Yun would do if he said yes. Yi Yun explained that those families had plotted against the Yi family, questioning whether they should have stood still and not fought back. He also told Lei that single-minded tolerance would only make one an object of slaughter for others. If Lei didn't understand that, Yi Yun thought it might be time for a change in mayors. Lei furiously called him a brat, but Yi Yun just glared back at Lei. The two of them glared at each other in anger, but then Lei called Yalan over, telling her that he needed his medication because his eyes were drying up. Yalan immediately gave her father the eye drops. Confused, he asked him what was going on. Lei sighed and replied that he was so old that his body couldn't handle it when he used his real energy, so he shouldn't be offended. He replied, "No problem." Then Lei told him that he was really brave and he shouldn't worry because he hadn't asked him to come there today to be questioned. Lei explained that he had ordered a thorough investigation into the Yi family's incident with the Zhu and Zheng families. He figured out that they were the ones who started the plot and then tried to collude with the Wild Horse Gang to kill the innocent. So, he knew that those people deserved to die. He asked Lei why, if that was the case, he had been asked to come there today. Lei replied that he had a request for him. Lei then said that he would like him to escort his daughter, Yalan, to the Kaiyuan sect in Qingyang County and protect her to the best of his ability. Yalan was as shocked as he was to hear her father's request. Hearing Kaiyuan sect, he remembered that Q had mentioned it. Yalan, shouting, told her father that he had promised her before that he wouldn't send her away, and asked why he was sending her to the Kaiyuan sect. Lei told her that she wasn't a kid anymore, so it was time for her to grow up alone. His health was getting worse, and he couldn't distract himself by taking care of her anymore. Lei also told Yalan that her talent was greater than his, and there was nothing more he could teach her. Only the Kaiyuan sect could make her strength rise faster, and he had found her a reliable partner, making Yalan clench her fist in silence. He told Lei that he didn't remember promising to go to the Kaiyuan sect. But Lei frankly said that joining the Kaiyuan sect would only benefit him. His personal strength was indeed strong, or else he wouldn't have been favored by Elder Q. But there was a limit to how much the Yi family could rely on him alone. Lei also said that a short period of force would indeed deter the 2 great families, but it was not a long-term solution. It was inevitable that other families would become rebellious soon, and at that time, there would be another family similar to the Zhu and Zheng families. Also, he couldn't protect the Yi family all the time. Lei then explained that the more important point was the variety of martial artists out there. He believed that, with his strength and talent, Yi Yun wouldn't want to stay in the small Baiyan city forever. In time, the Yi family would only be a hindrance to his growth process. However, this would only hold true as long as he agreed to Lei's request to protect Yalan and return her safely from her training. Lei then asked what Yi Yun thought of his swearing and guaranteeing that the Yi family would not be threatened or attacked in his position as the mayor of Baiyan City. Yi Yun told Lei that he thought he had misunderstood something because the current Yi family had long since ceased to be what it was before and didn't need anyone to protect them, including the protection of the mayor's mansion. Lei furiously called him bold, but Yi Yun just snaps his finger and someone pointed a sharp sword at the neck of a guard while shouting at them not to move. Lei then saw his guards being captive and his guard apologized to him. Yalan walked forward in front of her father and furiously asked Yi Yun what he was doing. Yi Yun's men reported that they had taken control of the mayor's mansion, and he praised them for doing a good job. Meanwhile, outside the mayor's mansion, Yi Yun's people reported to him that they were waiting outside the mansion, ready to be used at his command. Yi Yun then asked Lei what he thought of the strength of his Yi family and whether it still needed someone else's protection. Lei noticed that all of Yi Yun's people were at the 7th stage of the Kai blood realm, and their aura was so well hidden that even he hadn't noticed them, making him wonder how they did it in such a short period of time. Yi Yun, who was stopping Yalan, told Lei that the former Yu family, which was constantly infighting and disunited, was no more. The current Yu family would no longer be left to be bullied, and no one could stop the Yi family from becoming stronger. Lei sighed and admitted that he had misjudged the situation. Yiyun then told Lei that he was right about one thing, which made Lei furiously ask what it was. Yiyun replied that there were indeed a lot of martial artists out there, and it was about time for him to check them out. Lei, shouting, tells him that since he can't convince him, he'll have to resort to his trump card. However, Yiyun confidently tells Lei that he'll take him on. Suddenly, Lei hugs him and starts crying, asking why a strong young man like him is bullying a weak, handicapped person like him. Lei says that he worked so hard to raise his daughter and just wanted to protect her, then asks if he had done anything wrong. Yiyun, taken aback, couldn't believe it, and Yalan called her father in embarrassment. But Lei threatened that if Yiyun didn't promise him, he'd cry every day and hang himself. Yiyun replied that he promised, and told Lei to let go, all the while wondering what was going on. Then, Lei quickly turned around and told him that a man had to keep his word, so he was counting on him to take care of his little Yalan in the future, leaving Yiyun shocked and disbelief. Lei then grabbed a martial arts book, explaining that it was his family's internal art and each move had a masculine and domineering aura. He threw the book to Yiyun, saying that unfortunately, Yalan was a girl and couldn't practice it, so he decided to pass it on to Yiyun as a token of his appreciation. Yiyun saw that the book's title was Vidra Glazed Physique and received a system notification congratulating him for acquiring the primary martial art of the Earth grade, the Vidra Glazed Physique. The system showed his status. He was currently at the 9th stage of the Kai Blood Realm with experience points of 5,200,000, and his weapon was a spirit execution sword, and his technique was the inherited Phaon art. Unadvanced yellow rank. His martial arts included the Vidra Glazed Physique, Spirit Glow Sword Technique, and Fire Poison Palm, Tremor Stop, and Soundwave Roar. His divine ability was 1,000,000 times attack speed and 5-fold attack speed. Respectfully, he told Lei that if that was the case, he would take the book and in 3 days, he would definitely escort Yalan Fong safely to the Kaiyuan sect. 3 days later, in Qingyang County, a man asks another man named Wang why there are so many unfamiliar faces in Qingyang County City lately. Wang told Lei that it's only natural that he doesn't know if they are not local, and that they are there because the Kaiyuan sect is recruiting disciples. Wang explains to Lei that the Kaiyuan sect is one of the strongest sects in Qingyang County and several nearby counties, with many masters, and is now openly recruiting disciples, attracting many martial artists to enroll. However, he's heard that the conditions for the Kaiyuan sect to recruit disciples are very harsh, and there will be quite a few tests. Therefore, although many young men and women go to the Kaiyuan sect every year to participate in the test, very few are able to succeed in the end. Wang continued, telling Lei that it wasn't only about passing the tests. Even if one successfully navigated through the layers of tests, they could only be considered an outside disciple. Only inner disciples enjoy cultivation resources. Lei told Wang that in that case, he'd better not go and offered Wang another toast. Yiyun and Yalan, overhearing the two men, called the waiter for the check. Yalan asked Yiyun why he was so quiet, wondering if he was scared by what Wang had said and if he was worried they wouldn't be able to enter the Kaiyuan sect. Yiyun asked what she meant by scared and replied that he was actually excited. He knew that Baiyin City was just a small town in the northern region and that Qingyang County was really prosperous. He guessed there must be a lot of exciting things happening and hoped the Kaiyuan sect wouldn't be a disappointment. She called him an egomaniac and warned him not to hold her back later. Later, in Qingyang County, at the foothills of Mount Qingnu, Yiyun told Yalan that the Kaiyuan sect was located on Mount Qingnu, and they could reach it by ascending the mountain. He informed her that the first challenge was to climb the stone staircase, which didn't seem much of a challenge to him. He asked her what she thought, but she couldn't answer because she was exhausted. She was shocked to see him just casually walking up the stairs at a fast pace, with ease and easily getting ahead of her. Knowing she couldn't make a fool of herself in front of him, Yalan tried to keep up. Yiyun looked back and told her that at her rate, it would be dark soon. Then he pulled her up, prompting her to ask what he was doing. He replied that he was doing her a favor. She wondered why he was suddenly so close to her and if he was trying to carry her up, but then he carried her with both his feet and hands, making her look at him in confusion. He told her not to move or grab his hand, then speedily swung her around. On the other hand, other contestants were exhaustedly walking upstairs when Yiyun zoomed past them with Yalan shouting for her life. The people were shocked because they felt something just pass by. Then they looked up ahead of them as they heard Yalan cussing Yiyun and shouting for him to put her down. When they reached the top, he threw her down on the ground and dizzily told him that they finally arrived. Zuoyin and Guogung, deacons of the Kaiyuan sect, congratulate them on passing the first round of trials. Zua tells them that since they have come there, it means that they want to join the Kaiyuan sect. However, the Kaiyuan sect is not a sect that anyone can join because that sect has a rule that disciples joining must be under the age of 18 and must have reached the Kai blood realm. Then Guo touched the huge stone and explained to them that it was the Kaiyuan sect strength detecting stone and it could detect their ages and cultivation levels. Guo also explained to them that if they fulfill the requirements, the detecting stone will light up, and if it does not respond, it means they do not meet the requirements. The other contestants complained that, as they expected, the Kaiyuan sect, they were harsh, but the others stopped the complainers to tell them to get in line. 2 hours later, the contestants are all settled and Zua congratulates all of them for passing the test of the strength detecting stone and tells them that they are now qualified to join the Kaiyuan sect. But they can't be Kaiyuan sect disciples without a certain level of strength. Zua notices that the present number of contestants is 40. Then he tells them to follow him because they have a second trial coming up next. They quietly followed the deacons and arrived at the ground where the other people were training. Gold explained to them that the place they are currently in is the martial arts arena of the Kaiyuan sect, and it was their final trial, so the ones who win in the martial arts arena will become disciples of the Kaiyuan sect. Then Good explained that the rules are that they are free to fight each other within the square area of that martial arts arena, and the last 20 people who are still on the stage are the winners. Also, they can use any weapons, but they cannot hurt anyone, to which they all agreed. Then Gore tells them that the trial will start now. The man behind the stone peeked at them and thought that they were another bunch of new rookies. The ninth stage of the Kai blood realm and outer disciple Han Feng wonders if there are some powerful participants this time around. Then the ninth stage of the Kai blood realm and outer disciple, Ping, tells Feng that he was right, that it was so boring, and asks why don't they make a bet with him to see who will stay. Then Ping looks at Yiyun while telling Han that he thinks Yiyun is not bad. So he bet Yiyun can make the cut, and they'll put 5 third-grade Kai blood elixirs up as a bet. Then Ping asks Feng if he dares to bet with him. Feng replied that he was so mean because it was what he had been saving for 6 months. But Feng tells him that he was willing to bet and bet on the man with expensive clothes. He laughed, telling Han that they will see. Feng told him not to cry if he lost, but Feng had heard before he came there that Cao Mayan was a rare genius of the Cao family. Mayan had broken through to the 4th stage of the Kai blood realm 4 years ago when he was only 15 years old. Furthermore, Mayan's cultivation level has even reached the 1st level of the Grandmaster realm now, making Feng unable to believe that Ping had the audacity to bet on someone he doesn't know. So he thinks those Kai blood elixirs will definitely be his today. Zua shouted to the contestants that the duel was on, and then the contestants began to position themselves and strike each other with their weapons. Gowan tells him that those men look tough to deal with and they'll cover each other later. However, he just raises his hand, calling the deacons, and throws some badge while asking if it is okay to use it to get into the sect. The deacons looked at the badge and were shocked to see that it was a token from Q, making Feng more surprised than any of them. Zua tells everyone that since Yin has already been granted approval by Q, Yin may pass the trial directly, so no one is allowed to make a move on Yin. Then, Zua tells Yin that he can just stay on the stage and watch the battle, to which he agrees. Galen asks him if he shouldn't be fighting alongside her, but he replies that since she wants to gain experience, he can't stay by her side at all times. He asks her if she expects him to protect her for the rest of her life. She shouts back that she doesn't need him to protect her for the rest of her life, and it's just an outer disciple trial, so she'll win it. Then she ordered her weapon to emerge, and slowly something appeared in her hand. She swung her whip around. He looks at her fighting, noticing that the agitation method really works on self-respecting individuals. He knows that although he promised Feng Lei he would protect her, it's better for him to make her stronger as soon as possible rather than protect her all the time. It just happens that only real combat can make her stronger. Ping laughingly tells Feng that he got a test exemption, and it looks like he won this time. Feng cursed Ping and asked him if he expected that to happen. But Ping just asked him back how could he have placed a bet with him so easily if he hadn't inquired beforehand, and told him that it was just that he was so arrogant that he didn't think it through before entering the bet. Feng tells Ping not to get too excited because if Kaiomian also advances past that test, then he won't be counted as a loser and at best, they'll have a draw. On the other hand, the contestants are busy fighting each other on the stage. Yalin whips the mans while she is counting that she had beaten 5 people, so there are about 23 others on the field. Then she looked at Ian because she couldn't understand why she didn't feel nervous after hearing those words from Ian. Suddenly, Kyomian throws a sword slash at her while laughingly saying that it was his chance, but she jumped in midair in time to dodge it. Then, Mayan appeared behind her and told her that she couldn't escape. He grabbed her by the neck and told her that she'll die by a sword. Mayan teasingly told her that she was weak and asked her why a woman like her would come to the Kaiyuan sect, but she just shook in pain while Mayan told her to just admit defeat or he'd break her neck because he was in a bad mood. Then she saw him just staring at her, making her angry because of his insightful eyes, and swore that she doesn't want Yin to look down on her no matter what. She grabs Mayan's arms and Mayan notices something and was shocked to see her releasing her power in anger while telling him that if he underestimates a woman, he'll be out of luck. Then she kicked him away and crushed on the ground hard, breaking the ground in the process. Mayan shouted, asking how is that possible for her to have had a breakthrough while the people around her walked away thinking that she was so strong. Ian smiled, thinking that she was not bad. Yalin decided to defeat Mayan next, but then Mayan sat up in anger and jumped toward her while calling her a damn bitch and told her to die. Suddenly, someone grabbed Mayan's shoulder and pinned him down while asking him what he was doing. Mayan's leg bones shattered into pieces, making him shout in pain. Ian pinned Mayan down while Yalin was surprised to see him doing it. Mayan told him to let him go, but he just lifted Mayan's arm and asked him if he tried to poison her after he lost. Mayan shouted in pain and told him to let him go, but he just stared at Mayan's hand with poison and said that he really didn't want to be a co-disciple with people like him. Mayan asks him what he is doing and if he has forgotten what Zhou said just now. He replies that Zhou said no one else could strike him, but Zhou didn't say he couldn't strike anyone else while he was pinning him harder on the ground. Mayan asks him again if he wants to kill him and tells him not to mess around because the rules state they can't kill others. He lifts Mayan up and tells him that it said they couldn't kill others, so with that, Mayan begs him to let him go. However, he kicks Mayan away and tells him that if he nullifies his cultivation, it wouldn't be counted. Then, as Mayan was thrown away, he slams onto a pillar. The deacons knew that was directed towards Feng Yalin's vitals, so if Yun hadn't stopped Mayan in time, Yalin would definitely be dead. However, their issue was that they didn't see Yun's movements clearly, making them both think that Yun truly deserves to be the disciple that Lei had eyes on. He calls the deacons to tell them that he really doesn't want to be a co-disciple with such a scumbag and asks them if he is not breaking any rules by doing it, to which they both reply no. Yalin thanks him a lot for catching Mayan in time, but he just walks past her and tells her not to slack off because there are still a lot of opponents on the field. Feng punches the pillar in anger while Ping thanks Feng for the 5 Kai blood elixirs. Then, Feng swears to keep Yun in mind. 30 minutes later, many contestants are down on the ground, defeated, and he notices that the trial is almost over. A man tells Zhaoyao, winking that he concedes, and winking tells the man that it was a good game. Huai raises his huge sword, and the man under him admits defeat. Zhou shouts to them that it is time up, and the remaining 20 have passed the test. So from that day on, they are officially the outer disciples of the Kaiyuan sect. Yalin wipes the sweat from her forehead and is glad that it is finally over, but then Yun notices someone next to them and realizes that Zhaoyao, Winking, and Huai were opponents to watch out for later. Zhou tells them to come with him because he'll take them to the affairs hall first to collect their jade identity tags and other items. Then, Zhou leads the way, and they all follow. While walking, Zhou tells them that the Kaiyuan sect has 7 main peaks, 36 secondary peaks, and 300 smaller peaks. He explains that the 7 main peaks are the cultivation core of the Kaiyuan sect and the richest in resources, but only inner disciples can enter there. He warns them that trespassing into the inner gate will result in being blown away by the prohibitions on the main peak, so they must remember not to get close. God adds that the sect also has a spirit refining hall, treasure hall, affairs hall, gladiatorial arena, and an even-tiered pagoda as the core area. He then explains that the spirit refining hall is separated into 36 stone chambers, each equipped with powerful spirit gathering formations, where all the disciples cultivate on their own. The treasure hall, where the sect keeps its treasures, contains a collection of rare treasures, martial art elixirs, and sacred weapons. The Affairs Hall, which they have just visited, is the task station of the Kaiyuan sect and provides the daily miscellaneous items needed. As for the gladiatorial arena and the 7-tiered pagoda, they, being juniors, will learn about them later. Zhou asks them if they have received their jade tags, storage bags, and the 5 spirit stones from the initiation reward. He explains that within the Kaiyuan sect, special spirit stones are used as a tool of exchange, so in the future, they will use them to activate their cultivation formation and receive them as their monthly salaries. He points out that no matter what status they had before or how much wealth they had, it's all useless now that they have become disciples of the Kaiyuan sect, leaving one of the men disappointed because he brought a lot of money from home, which is now useless. However, the others are smiling proudly, expecting the Kaiyuan sect to treat everyone the same and everyone starting from scratch. Later, Zhou tells them that they have arrived at the cave where the outer disciples stay. The male disciples will stay there, but the female disciples should follow him further. One of the men comments on the cave's simplicity, and another man notes that calling it frugal is a polite way of saying so. Zhou reminds them that they are now outer disciples and will only be allowed to stay in the Mountain Peaks mansion when they become inner disciples. If they feel unwilling, they should practice diligently. He adds that as long as they win the inner sect competition 3 months from that day, they'll be able to become inner disciples, igniting Yi Yun's determination to win. A moment later, inside the outer disciples' cave, Yi Yun was intently focusing on his inner power when the system popped up, showing that he had gained 3 times 6,000 experience points. He opened his eyes and glanced at the spirit stone near him, realizing that placing it in the spirit gathering formation would triple the aura he could obtain. However, he understood that relying solely on devouring these auras would not be enough to significantly raise his experience points. This realization made him acknowledge the need to find ways to obtain more spirit stones. 5 days later, in the affairs hall, a man approached Feng, inquiring about his reasons for visiting the hall and whether he had been short of money lately. Feng, annoyed, replied that it was none of his business. Then, he frowned, recalling how he had lost significantly earlier by betting 5 Kai blood elixirs to Ping. He knew that without saving up for new elixirs, his cultivation progress would stall, but he was surprised to see a large gathering of outer disciples in the hall. Feng grabbed a nearby man and furiously demanded to know what was happening and why the hall was so crowded, given his absence in the past few days. The man, visibly frightened, explained that a new outer disciple had been claiming and completing missions at an unprecedented pace, leading to a shortage. He advised Feng to queue up early for missions if he hoped to earn spirit stones. Releasing the man, Feng pondered over the situation. He rationalized that the new disciples' eagerness to earn spirit stones stemmed from their weak foundations, assuming it to be a temporary behavior. Feng also noted the sheer number of daily missions, nearly 300, at the affairs hall. He questioned why there was so much concern, but the man informed him that one disciple could complete almost 100 missions in a day, which had intensified the competition. Meanwhile, Yi Yun approached an old man named Chu, who was sitting at a table covered with mission accomplishments, to exchange them for spirit stones. Chu, slightly intoxicated, complained about Yi Yun bothering him daily during his drinking. Despite his annoyance, Chu slams his table angrily and released a large number of spirit stones and threw them at Yi Yun, telling him to take them all and not return. Yi Yun, maintaining his composure, calmly placed the spirit stones into his storage bag and informed Chu that he would be back the next day. Chu shouted at Yi Yun to leave, declaring his intention to sleep until he woke naturally and insisting that Yi Yun not come back the next day, as he no longer wanted to see him. Despite Chu's outburst, he tossed wooden cards towards Yi Yun. Calmly, Yi Yun thanked Chu and picked up the wooden blocks, each marked with the Chinese character for 7. The other disciples were shocked to see Chu had given Yi Yun a grade 7 mission. They knew that the difficulty of missions in the affairs hall ranged from grades 1 to 10, with the most suitable missions for outer disciples being grades 1 to 4, typically involving collecting herbs and catching 3rd-grade demonic beasts. Missions from grades 5 to 10 were far more challenging, leaving the disciples incredulous about how Yi Yun managed to accomplish so many grade 7 missions alone. They questioned who Yi Yun really was. Chu, raising his voice, informed the outer disciples that there were no more missions available for the day and they should leave. Feng, witnessing this exchange, clenched his teeth in anger, frustrated that it was Yi Yun once again. The next day, Yi Yun arrived at the location of his new mission, which appeared peaceful at first glance. However, he soon spotted a pack of grade 3 blast wolves engaged in a fight. He estimated there to be 30 to 40 of them, each as strong as a pack leader. Agile, he leaped from stone to reach the ground, planning to capture 2 of the blast wolves as proof for the affairs hall. One of the blast wolves howled, signaling its pack to attack. Yi Yun, without hesitation, faced them and decided to eliminate the rest. He swiftly slashed at the wolves, proclaiming that they had all become stepping stones for him to become stronger. After defeating them, he began to devour them. A few minutes later, the system notified him that the mass devouring was complete and he had gained a total of 3,600,000 experience points. As the system was about to congratulate him, he glanced back and saw wolves launching their fangs to bite him from behind, making him think it was useless. Then he released his aura-glazed physique. The wolves bit his shoulders simultaneously, but he simply crossed his arms, shouting for them to die, and chopped the wolves into pieces. Then he grabbed the core of the wolf. The system showed that he had broken through to the first stage of the Grandmaster realm. His skill points had been upgraded, and he could now use tenfold attack speed. It then displayed his status, revealing that his martial arts Vajra-glazed physique had increased to the primary Earth rank, and his spirit glow sword technique had risen to the advanced mysterious rank. He knew that the Vajra-glazed physique deserved to be an Earth-ranked martial skill because it was indeed very strong. Observing that his attack speed had also increased, he thought about his current rate of cultivation and decided he could ask Chu for some grade 8 missions next time. While he was busy looking at the system, a strong slash flew towards him, but fortunately he dodged it in time. Suddenly, a lot of outer disciples surrounded him with weapons, and Feng ordered him to hand over the demon elixirs. However, he just frowned and asked Feng if he knew him. Feng replied that he didn't just know him because ever since he made him lose, he was doomed to a bad end. Yet, he claimed to be a forgiving person and said that if the demon elixirs were handed over now, he would let him go. But he just looked at them, unthreatened. Then, a man told Feng not to waste time with Iyun anymore and said he would take their few brothers to maim and silence Iyun, asserting that what Iyun had was naturally theirs. The man also told Feng that he saw Iyun gain a lot of spirit stones from Chu just a moment ago. The bald man warned the man named Wang that it was not good for them to hurt their fellow disciples like this because if the deacons or elders inquired about it later, they would be doomed. But Wang told the bald man not to be afraid, arguing that it was normal for disciples to get hurt while on their missions and as long as they didn't admit to it, no one would find out the truth. Then Wang and the other outer disciples leaped towards Iyun, beginning their attack and surrounding him while telling him that he would die this time. Confidently, Wang told Feng to just rest on the sidelines and watch them beat the kid until he begged for mercy. Then, they all captured him with their chains. Iyun noticed that their formation was absorbing his aura and realized he had underestimated them. Wang told him that, having just entered the sect, he must not have seen the spirit trapping formation. He explained that the formation would constantly absorb his aura, making escape impossible. Furthermore, the more people there were casting the formation, the stronger the chain would become. The outer disciples wrapped their chain around him, while Wang taunted him, saying it was awful to be confined by 10 men. If he obediently handed over the items, he would let him go. But Iyun just asked them if they really thought they could trap him with that power. The chain slowly cracked as he released a powerful aura inside it, shocking Wang in disbelief. Then, Iyun once again used his Vajra-glazed physique, which easily broke the chains wrapped around him and threw the surrounding outer disciples away. Feng wondered what was going on. Had Iyun broken through to the Grandmaster realm in such a short period of time? How had he done it? Then Feng lunged towards him to attack, shouting that he wanted to kill him. Iyun simply activated his tenfold attack speed and caught the top of Feng's sword. Feng was stunned to see his sword shatter into pieces. Then Iyun grabbed him by the neck and told him that he was going to return his words. Lifting Feng with one hand, Iyun declared that from the moment Feng coveted his possessions, his fate was sealed. Feng called him brother and master, begging for his life and saying he would give him anything he wanted. Smiling, he told Feng that he knew what was good for him, then threw Feng to the ground. 15 minutes later, Feng and his men showed their spirit stones to him, declaring that these were all the spirit stones they had and begged for mercy. He asked them if that was what their lives were worth and remarked that, as his seniors, they should have more spirit stones. Then he inquired if Feng had his storage bags with him. Feng and Wang exchanged angry glances, but they all handed over their storage bags, stating that these contained everything they had acquired since they started there and expressed hope that he would be forgiving and spare their lives. He took their storage bags and commented on the impressive collection of items they had amassed. Then he extracted the spirit stones from their storage bags. Wang, hoping to leave, said if he was satisfied, they would depart first. Feng assured him they wouldn't tell anyone about today's events. However, he instructed them to wait a moment, then used his tenfold attack speed to injure them. Feng, cursing furiously, accused him of going back on his word. He calmly sheathed his sword and asked Feng when he had ever gone back on his word. He clarified that he had promised to spare their lives, but he never said he wouldn't let them get hurt. He reminded them of their own words that it was normal to lose an arm and a leg on a mission. Feng glared furiously, but he simply leapt away, telling them he'd see them later. Later, inside Yi Yun's cave, he sat on his bed, meditating and devouring the spirit stones he had acquired. After he finished, the notification congratulated him on breaking through to the second stage of the Grandmaster realm and displayed an increase in some of his statuses. Looking at the spirit stone, he reflected that he hadn't expected those seniors to have so many spirit stones and elixirs in their storage bags, and it was thanks to them that he managed to break through to the second stage of the Grandmaster realm. He realized that the seniors often bullied his fellow disciples and thought that it was for everyone's good that he taught them a lesson today. Then, he decided to rest, but suddenly, the device in his bed activated, and someone asked if he was there. He looked at it in confusion and asked Yalan, who was calling him, if she needed anything, wondering why she was looking for him at that time. She inquired if he was free and explained that her friend had received a grade 5 mission, which required a group of 4 people and they were currently 1 short. Therefore, they would like to invite him to join, as she had heard it was difficult to obtain missions from the affairs hall these days. He glanced at the pile of wooden cards next to him, realizing Yalan didn't know he was the cause of that difficulty. He then told her he was about to take a break, so he wouldn't be going. In truth, he knew they would have to split the rewards 5 ways in a grade 5 mission like that, so he decided to pass. She replied, sounding disappointed that she understood and he should forget about it. She then apologized to Wanking, explaining that her friend needed to rest now, so they should look for someone else. The lady assured Wanking it was okay, and that they would find other disciples for help. Wanking replied sadly that he understood, and then he hid his smile as he told them it was a shame. A moment later, the lady asked Yalan if her friend, surnamed Iyun, had a crush on her. She wondered why else he would have rushed over as soon as he heard about Wanking teaming up with them. Then, they looked at Wanking telling Iyun that, luckily, he came over in the end. Otherwise, he didn't know when they would have been able to start the mission. Iyun just nodded his head, making Yalan notice that he was an emotionally reserved guy. Still, she wondered if he had a crush on her. Then, she remembered a moment before when Iyun asked her who was on the mission with her, and if it was Xiao Winking next to her. She knew she had known Iyun for so long, but she was still really not sure what he was thinking, because Iyun's behavior always exceeded her expectations. Then, she called to Lady Tang, telling her that she was mistaken because she didn't think Iyun would have such a mindset, and they shouldn't talk about it but just keep up with him. She then ran off, making Tang shout after her, telling her to wait. Wanking told Iyun that he didn't know if Yalan had mentioned the scenario of that mission to him, but that mission was very dangerous. They must find a way to get to the dark swamp in the center of the forest and get the erosion flower. Wanking also explained to him that the flower is said to be a grating thing, but it is extremely mysterious and very few people can find it. So, if the things they encounter on that journey are monsters, they can handle it. But if they run into the poisonous miasma produced by the dark swamp, they'll be in trouble. Once one inhales that poisonous miasma, it will erode a martial artist's internal organs. So, even if that person doesn't die by some chance, they will become crippled. He asked Wanking why he looked for them to team up in the first place if it was such a difficult mission. It should have been easier for him to complete the mission if he found disciples within the Grandmaster realm. Tang angrily asked him if he was saying that their cultivation level, being at the Kai blood realm, would hold him back. She told him that Wanking, who was in the 3rd stage of the Grandmaster realm, didn't have any comments on them, but Iyun made so many comments. Wanking asked him if he was doubting him and told him that, honestly, the reason he invited them to team up was because he had a special item that could guarantee the successful completion of the mission. Then, Wanking took out something to show them and explained that the item in his hand was called the Yongyuan elixir, his family's secret elixir. Taking it, he said, would make them immune to the poisonous miasma for 2 hours and keep them all safe in the dark swamp. He added that he thought it was better to be accompanied by 2 beauties on a mission rather than a group of men. Tang told Wanking that he was sweet-mouthed, but Yalan just coughed. Iyun looked at the elixir in his hand while Wanking urged them to take it quickly, explaining that their physical bodies couldn't resist the poisonous miasma. Tang immediately took the elixir, telling Wanking he was so nice and thoughtful. Yalan and Iyun, however, just stared at the elixir for a moment, making Wanking ask why they didn't take it. He warned them about the potency of the sinister poisonous miasma and reminded them that they had all managed to pass the outer disciples test with great difficulty. It would be bad, he said, if they lost their lives there. They both agreed and put the elixir in their mouths together. Then, Wanking told them they should move on while the elixir lasted. They all jumped, with Wanking leading and saying it was just up ahead. They didn't realize Yi-Yun was still holding the elixir in his hand and crushed it into pieces. Later, upon arriving at the location, Tang announced that the erosion flower was right in front of them, emitting a powerful aura. She exclaimed that they were so lucky, but Yalan found it strange and questioned why they hadn't encountered any demonic beast along the way. And whether things would go so smoothly, Tang replied that it was still difficult to reach the flower and asked how they were going to get across the swamp. Wanking said he had an idea and explained that he had learned a set of formations that could turn aura into spirit stone steps which people could walk on for a short time. However, the formation needed someone to control it at all times, so he asked Yi-Yun to go over and pick the erosion flower. He agreed. Wanking then said it was too dangerous for him to go alone and suggested that Yalan, whose realm was higher, should also go with him to provide backup. He told Tang that she would stay there to back him up. Both agreed. Wanking then raised his hand, summoning his 7-starred treading formation, which created stepping stones in the swamp. He ordered Yi-Yun and Yalan to go now, and they both jumped onto the stepping stones Wanking had made. Yalan asked him if he didn't think it was strange. As they got closer to the flower, Yalan noted the absence of birds and the eerie quiet. He took out his sword, suggesting that something might be wrong with the flower. Yi-Yun then used his blizzard slash to attack the flower. Yalan was amazed while Tang excitedly shouted that Yi-Yun did it, but Wanking just stared at him. Suddenly, the flower released multiple long bones to attack them. They were all shocked to witness it, but fortunately, he blocked the bones, and he and Yalan jumped back in time to avoid being hit by the flower's rampaging bones. Wanking warned them not to stand too far away because his spirit stone step could only last for 7 steps. Tang shouted to them that something was emerging, and then they saw skeletons coming out of the swamp. He was confused to see them, but suddenly, a monster emerged from the swamp with huge eyes and various beast skeletons, making him question if it was the true form of the flower. Yalan suggested that all the demonic beasts they hadn't seen along the way had been seduced by it and become its sustenance. Suddenly, it flew towards her, prompting Wanking to shout for her to dodge, which she did, along with Yi-Yun. Wanking shouted to them not to fight it anymore, but to pick the flower and get out of there. He replied that he knew what to do and slashed at the bones attacking him while telling Wanking that he would make his own judgment. Then, he swung his sword towards the monster, shouting for it to get down, and hit it with his blizzard slash. The creature slowly fell down due to his attack, and he used his power to pluck the flower from its head, which rolled around as it came towards his hand. Realizing that the flower had disappeared from its head, the creature became more aggressive, swinging its bones around them continuously. Tang, who was protecting Wanking, shouted that the attacks were becoming more frequent. Yalan, doing her best to back up Yi-Yun, informed them that the attacks were strong. She thought that since they had obtained the flower, they should evacuate quickly. But then, she felt the stone she was standing on crack, causing her to look back in shock. Tang, wordly, shouted that Yalan was going to fall and told Wanking to build another spirit stone step immediately. However, Wanking replied that it was too late, and he couldn't make it. Ian used his tenfold attack speed and ride it to caught Yalan in time. He gave her the flower, telling her to hold it, to which she replied, "Okay." Then, he employed his spirit glow sword technique and swung it toward the creature, causing a loud explosion. Yalan shyly looked at him, but he quickly jumped onto the spirit stone steps to return to land after defeating it. They safely landed on the ground, and Tang immediately hugged Yalan, wordly telling her that she really scared her just now, but luckily, she was okay. Wanking apologized to Yalan, explaining that they were too far apart. The demon had given another desperate blow before dying, so the power of that attack was so great that it was too much of a strain for him to fend off before he could create the spirit stone step for her. Fortunately, Ian saved her before it turned into a fatal mistake. Then, Wanking reached for the flower and, smiling, told Yalan that it was good the mission was still successfully accomplished. With the erosion flower, they could go back and hand in their mission. But then, Ian grabbed Wanking's hand, accusing him of showing his true colors after pretending for so long. Wanking asked what he meant by that, and Ian replied that if it had been Yalan who obtained the flower out of the two of them, then the spirit stone step that was unable to be created in time would have been the one under his feet. He accused Wanking of having a 3-step plan. First, having 2 out of the 3 of them take the risk of picking the flower, and then taking the opportunity to get rid of one of them. Secondly, he chose the weakest to stay by his side to back him up, with the goal of killing her during the ensuing chaos. Tang interrupted, asking what he was talking about, but he continued, alleging that Wenking's last plan was to kill the last person, who would have lost a lot of their spiritual power after the battle, and take sole possession of the mission's reward. Wenking responded, saying he was surprised by those comments, and asked Iyun what he meant by killing him, when actually, he had been on the verge of hell from the beginning. Suddenly, Tang coughed up blood, and Yalan felt a sharp pain in her chest. Wenking told Iyun that he had wanted to eliminate him as a potential rival before the intersect disciple competition, but it seemed impossible now. He then explained to them that he hadn't lied about the elixir. It indeed helped one withstand poisonous miasma. However, if they unleashed their inner power, they would suffer a backlash. Tang, shaking and tearful, asked Wenking how he could deceive them. He warned them to stay away, and Yalan told him to watch out. Wenking then released his green aura, telling Iyun that he was so smart he probably hadn't taken the elixir, but it was tricky and he will just kill him here. Iyun released his black aura and challenged Wenking, asking if he was confident in himself. Wenking threw spikes at him, acknowledging that Iyun was a formidable opponent and that it would be a shame to let him die so soon. Iyun, however, just smiled and told Wenking that only one of them could live. He then slashed at the spikes flying toward him to block them, and then swung his sword down at Wenking, breaking the ground in the process. Wenking blocked his attack using his fan, and as he got a small cut on his face, he wondered how it was possible. He knew Iyun's realm and strength were clearly below his, but Iyun's speed made it impossible for him to react in time. Iyun was so fast that Wenking had no time to react at all. Then, Iyun slashed Wenking's hand, making him let go of his fan, and Wenking realized that Iyun's power was frightening. Iyun sheathed his sword, telling Wenking that he was not skilled enough to take his life. Wenking's bloody fan fell to the ground, and he couldn't believe he was defeated. He shouted that he had wanted to kill Iyun, but then Wenking felt a sharp pain and saw a solid whip pierce his shoulder. Yalan warned him not to move, or next time it wouldn't be just his shoulder. Wenking, in disbelief, asked Yalan how she was still standing when she had obviously taken the elixir. She revealed that she hadn't been fooled and had been regulating her energy to ward off the poisonous miasma since entering the swamp. Otherwise, she would have already crippled his hand with her whip. Iyun proudly told Yalan that she seemed to have matured. Then, she softened her whip and let Wenking fall to the ground. She asked Iyun what they should do now, mentioning that although she wanted to kill Wenking with her whip, the sect had a rule against killing fellow disciples if a mission execution went awry. Wenking, shakily trying to stand up, laughed to himself, thinking that even if they made a scene in front of the deacons and elders, all he had to do was claim that it was the two of them who were trying to take the mission rewards and falsely accuse him. He believed he could escape death and thought everything would be fine as long as he survived, willing to take the opportunity to maneuver with the elders and rise again in the future. Wenking then looked at Tang, who was in pain, thinking that if he said a few more fancy words to the stupid woman Tangshiru, she would obey him when she woke up. Iyun grabbed Wenking by the neck, asking if he was figuring out how to get out of the situation and whether he thought they didn't have any evidence of his treachery. Seeing Wenking's flustered look, Iyun squeezed his neck a little harder, telling him that he knew he had guessed right. He then let go of Wenking, telling him that his perfect plan was going to be ruined by him. Iyun threw a recording stone in front of Wenking, which showed Wenking confidently admitting to his dirty plan. Wenking, shouting, asked when Iyun started recording and realized that it was hard to obtain a recording stone in the sect, and he couldn't even buy it even with more money. He then asked Iyun how he got one. Iyun replied that there was a lot more about him that Wenking wouldn't expect. Yalan shouted that with that recording stone, Wenking not confessing wasn't an issue and mentioned that mutilating a fellow disciple during a mission would result in a heavy punishment of 81 days of lightning strikes. She suggested they should tie up Wenking immediately. Then, Iyun released his black aura, telling Yalan he had something to do before sending Wenking back to the sect. He put his hand above a trembling Wenking, and Wenking asked what he was trying to do. Iyun whispered something in Wenking's ear, making Wenking beg for help, and claimed that Iyun was insane. Iyun then grabbed something inside Wenking's body, who begged for someone to save him, while Iyun told him that he'd also like to charge some interest. After he was done, Iyun told Yalan to take Wenking back and turn him in, mentioning that now that Wenking had lost all his cultivation, he shouldn't cause trouble on the way back. Yalan furiously called Wenking scum, telling him that they had been merciful to him. Then, she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her head. Iyun, wordly, asked what was wrong with her, and she, shaking, replied that she felt cold before slowly bending over in pain. A moment later, he entered the affair hall, holding Yalan in his arms, and heard Chu muttering in his drunken state that he and the dogs were not allowed to enter. Chu, heavily intoxicated, laughingly said that he had tried so hard to get that 50-year vintage alcohol, and he was going to enjoy it today. He declared he would not open the door for anyone, but suddenly, someone barged into the hall, breaking the wall in the process. Chu angrily asked who was there, and Tang, who was dragging winking, panically told Chu that they were in trouble. Chu, recognizing Iyun, accused him of coming to cause more trouble. Minutes later, Yalan was sitting on a chair, looking unwell. Tang told Chu they had encountered problems with the mission and appealed to his knowledge to save Yalan. Chu, however, dismissively said that the affair hall was not a healing hall, that since they had accepted the mission, their lives were in God's hands. He then shouted at them to go away and find someone else, not to disturb him when he is drinking. However, Ian surrounded Chu with his daggers, causing Chu to drop his alcohol in surprise. Chu, laughing, called him bold and asked if he wanted to fight, questioning if Iyun was trying to force him into submission. Chu then displayed his power, asking if Iyun didn't realize that he was not someone to be taken on so easily. Iyun replied that he wouldn't dare do so, but if they wasted any more time, he feared that the 100-year vintage alcohol he was holding would have to be given to someone else. Chu, suddenly attentive, sweetly said Iyun should have mentioned his issue earlier, and asked if he was in trouble. Tang thought that Chu had been terrorized and then bribed with goodies, indicating that Chu's behavior was well known, and yet Chu himself seemed unaware of it. Chu checked Yalan's pulse, and when Tang asked him about it, he replied that it was a rare issue. Yalan has a congenital cold constitution. Both of them asked Chu what that meant. He explained that a congenital cold constitution refers to a martial artist's inherent condition that carries its own cold poison from birth. This cold poison can erode a martial artist's body and severely impede cultivation. If the poison continues to worsen, Yalan would not be able to gather spiritual energy again in her lifetime. Tang mentioned that Yalan usually seems no different from normal people when she cultivates, and Chu clarified that it was because there had always been a most rigid and pure Yang Kai protecting her, resisting the cold brought by her innate condition. Chu, while drinking his alcohol, elaborated that Yang Kai must be skillfully controlled. A little more of the Kai could kill Yalan, and a little less would render it ineffective. He speculated that Yalan had been using her energy to fend off the poisonous miasma during the mission, consuming too much of her internal energy. Additionally, Yalan was accidentally affected by the Han Kai of the erosion flower, which triggered the toxin in her body. Now, 2 strands of Han Kai were reversing her veins, and if she wasn't cured immediately, he feared Yalan wouldn't live for more than 3 days. He realized why Feng Lei had been so generous as to give him the Vidra glazed physique, noting that Yalan couldn't cultivate that technique. He figured out that Lei ostensibly rewarded him, but in fact, he wanted him to help Yalan if something happened to her, thinking Lei was a crafty old fox with a cunning mind. He told Chu that he cultivates pure Yang Kai, the Vidra glazed physique, and asked if it was possible for him to help Yalan regulate her Kai. Chu replied no, explaining that Yalan's current internal energy was abnormally disturbed, and ordinary regulation couldn't cure her. He asked Chu if there was another treatment, and Chu replied that it would be better to conquer poison with poison. They needed to completely force out the Han Kai in her body and then infuse Yang Kai, so she would completely transform into someone with a cold saint constitution. He asked Chu to confirm if he really said cold saint constitution, to which Chu replied yes. He explained that although the congenital cold constitution is a burden to a martial artist, there is a chance that said martial artist can advance into the cold saint constitution, which is one of the top constitutions. Once activated, it allows martial artists to achieve great advancement in their realm and fight enemies at higher realms. Tang urgently shook Chu, shoutingly asking what he was waiting for, then told Chu to hurry up and save Yalan. Later, in the hot bath inside the room, he asks Yalan if she has memorized the method of channeling spirit energy that he just taught her. She nods in agreement. They both undress inside the huge bathtub, which makes him wonder why that happened. But he decides to set his question aside, knowing that it is more important to save Yalan. For days later, Yalan is peacefully sleeping in the bed. She slowly opens her eyes and sees Tang in front of her. Tang asks her if she is finally awake. She asks Tang in return if they aren't on a mission and why they are there. Tang replies that the reliable Yiyun sent them back. Confused, she asks Tang what he means by reliable when she remembers not liking Yiyun much on previous missions. Tang replies that she used to think Yiyun spoke harshly and unkindly, but then she realized it was she who lacked keen eyesight. Yiyun was simply the precious talent of the Kyuan sect. Tang also tells her that after she fainted, Yiyun held her in his arms to seek treatment for her, even though Yiyun was still cold. Tang remembers Yiyun telling her that he had cured her of the poison, so she should take that wanking trash with her, and they'll go back to the Kyuan sect. Then, Tang whispers to her that 4 days before, Yiyun told Shu he had finished channeling her energy and asked what they needed to do next. Shu showed the ice elixir, which can activate the cold Saint Constitution's energy, to Yiyun and told him that she would be fine as long as she took it and then regulated her energy for 7 days. Shu also tells them that they are kind of lucky to have the right guy because he was the only one in the entire Kyuan sect who had that elixir. Tang tells Chu that it is good and he should save her quickly, but Chu asks Tang if she is kidding and if she really thinks he is that kind. Then he tells her that the ice elixir is so valuable and if they want it, they can hand over 500 spirit stones in exchange. Tang told Chu that it was a lot because outer disciples could only get 10 spirit stones per month and even inner disciples only get 20 per month, but Chu didn't care at all. Then Yiyun threw the bag with 1,000 spirit stones inside and told Chu to take the rest as drinking money as his gift to him. Chu opened the bag and laughingly shouted that it was very nice. Then Chu tells him that since he was so generous, he was somewhat curious as to what his relationship with Yiyun was, and he replied that he promised someone a favor, so he naturally had to keep it. After Tang explained everything that happened, she told Yiyun that 500 spirit stones were needed to treat her condition, and that Yiyun handed them over without hesitation. Moreover, Yiyun even doubled the amount. She had never seen such a dedicated man in the Kyuan sect, which makes Yiyun truly precious. Yiyun tells Tang that she understands and she'll have to return Yiyun's favor, acknowledging that the ice elixir is so valuable and Yiyun is so generous. In Yiyun's place, she might not have been as generous. Tang tells her that she thinks Yiyun should devote herself to Yiyun for life because, after all, she has been in the hot springs with Yiyun for 3 days and 3 nights. The Alan shyly asks Tang what she means by saying she has been in the hot spring with Yiyun for 3 days and 3 nights. Then, feeling dizzy, she squeezes her face into her blanket, making Tang panic and tell her not to pass out because Chu said she needed to regulate her energy for 7 more days. Meanwhile, somewhere in the Kyuan sect, a man asks Feng if he is telling the truth, and Feng confidently replies yes. He then tells the man that the disciple named Yiyun has been arrogant since joining the sect and, by virtue of having Q as a backer, Yiyun bullied other disciples, wantonly exploited their belongings, and took away treasures they had accumulated for decades. Feng also tells the man that Yiyun is directly challenging his position in the Kyuan sect. The man, revealed to be Han Zion, the 6th elder of the Kyuan sect and in the 4th stage of the transcendental realm, angrily squeezes his palm. He tells Feng that it seems like Q was blind to accept such an arrogant brat into the Kyuan sect. Feng informs Zion that Q, the 10th elder, was newly authorized by their master, Qin, half a year ago. Q received a grant from Qin to pass on his power and has now broken through to the 4th stage of the transcendental realm. Zion tells Feng to rest assured, explaining that Qin's decision was merely out of gratitude for Q saving Qin's daughter, Qin Yao. He mentions that Q is just a newly promoted elder with an unsteady position, yet he still dares to oppose him. Zion also declares that as for Yiyun, he'll make sure Yiyun understands the consequences of offending the Han family and the Kyuan sect, and Feng thanks Zion for this assurance. Feng laughingly thinks that Yiyun's future in the Kyuan sect will not be pleasant. The next day, Yiyun is walking outside, contemplating that it's been a month since he joined the Kyuan sect. He realizes that his strength has increased slowly, probably because his realm had recently advanced. He thinks that if he wants to make a significant leap in a short period of time, he needs to find another way to do so. Then, he overhears a disciple telling his friend about someone at the gladiator arena who won 4 matches in a row that day. The friend expresses interest, suggesting they check it out. Yiyun remembers that the gladiatorial arena is an open and fair place for matches where, before the start of a battle, fellow disciples can wager spirit stones, elixirs, and weapons. Realizing it's a good opportunity to acquire spirit stones, he decides to be there for sure. Meanwhile, in the Kyuan sect at the gladiator arena, the disciples are fighting each other on the stage, one of the contestants, tells his opponent that he has lost. Yin Tianba, a 4th stage grandmaster, curses, knowing that Y and he were clearly at the same level. An outer disciple thinks that Y is impressive and is about to win his 5th consecutive match. One of the outer disciples tells everyone that he heard Wai has a sister with an incurable illness. To raise money for her treatment, Wai took on many assassination jobs. After making numerous enemies in the martial world, Wai had no choice but to come to the Kiwan sect. The others reply that it's no wonder Wai is not afraid of death, he is desperate. Yiyun, who is in the back, wonders if that is why. Meanwhile, Wai tells Tianba that he can leave, but Tianba just laughs and throws blades behind Wai, hitting him. Wai looks back in disbelief, but Tianba just leaps toward him, telling him that according to the rules of the arena, unless one side admits defeat or steps out of the ring, it is not over and deception is a fighter's best friend. Wai kneels on the ground in pain, knowing it's bad for him because he has been struck with a poison weapon. Tianba punches Wai in the face, teasingly telling him to fight back and asking if he isn't arrogant just like before. Tianba continuously punches Wai, asking why he isn't saying anything and if he is scared. Then Tianba calls Wai chicken and weak, telling him to admit his defeat now. Wai is down on the ground, throwing up blood, and the disciples can't bear to watch the fight anymore because it's so shameless. However, another disciple tells the angry men that this is how the arena works. Tianba gathers his aura to form a weapon in his hand and tells Wai that if he won't speak up, he should just roll off the stage. Then Tianba throws his poisonous blade at Wai once again. Suddenly, Ian appeared behind Tianba and grabbed Tianba's shoulder, then kicked him away. Tianba asks who he is, and Iyun replies that he'll fight him instead. Iyun then asks the man at the table how he can challenge Tianba. The man asks Wai if he can still fight, and Wai raises his hand to forfeit. The man tells Iyun that as of now, Tianba has a total of 160 spirit stones, so if Iyun wants to challenge Tianba, he'll have to put the same number of spirit stones on the table in front of him. If Iyun wins, he can take all of Tianba's spirit stones directly. Tianba tells Iyun that he had heard of him, and that he was outstanding among the outer disciples. However, he advises Iyun not to join in the fun recklessly, or he might end up losing everything, even his underwear. Iyun simply tells Tianba that he should admit defeat now, or he won't have a chance later. The disciples cheer for him, telling him that they believe in him, and that he should teach Tianba a lesson for them. However, others bet that he won't last a move and would be taken out. Iyun puts the same amount of spirit stones as Tianba on the man's table and tells the man that he is in a hurry, so they should get started. Tianba activates his aura and arrogantly tells Iyun that he is a 4th stage grandmaster, and trying to beat him with 2nd stage skills is like hitting an egg against a rock. Tianba launches his poisonous blade at Iyun, but Iyun just points his sword forward and asks Tianba who is the egg and who is the rock. Then, like an air slash, Iyun moves so swiftly that Tianba can't believe his speed. Iyun sheathes his sword and tells Tianba that he needed to touch it to know, leaving Tianba shocked and feeling his face bleeding. The disciples angrily ask what is going on and accuse Tianba of being 2 stages higher than Iyun yet still unable to beat him. Tianba, furiously releasing more of his aura, shouts at Iyun not to get cocky. Then, Tianba throws his stronger blades at Iyun and shouts at him to prepare to die, but Iyun simply stops the blades with one hand and tells Tianba not to overestimate himself. Tianba feels something unusual in his body and wonders why his blades suddenly did not obey him. He realizes that the pressure emitted was spiritual energy and that the sword move Iyun made just now was so fast that even the naked eye couldn't catch it. Knowing that if he doesn't admit defeat now, he'll be dead, Tianba tries to surrender, but Iyun throws back the blades at Tianba's mouth to stop him and reminds Tianba that he had told him he wouldn't have the chance to admit defeat, making Tianba understand that it was over. Then, Iyun slams Tianba's face into the ground, breaking the ground into pieces and causing Tianba to shout in pain, which leads to a loud explosion. The disciples ask what just happened because they barely saw Iyun's moves. Iyun shows Tianba's destroyed face and asks the man how they should judge it since Tianba fainted. The man, furiously, throws all the spirit stones at Iyun and tells him that he won, instructing him to take all the spirit stones and leave quickly. Iyun tells the man that Wai fought 5 rounds in a row and asks why he can't continue to the next round, but the man shouts at him to open his eyes and see for himself that he shattered the arena, questioning what next round Iyun is talking about. Iyun peeks at the shattered ground, knowing that he only used 30% of his strength. Later, Iyun is walking in the forest when someone stops him. Surprised, he looks up to see Wai in front of him. He asks Wai if the poison has been neutralized and if he is there to thank him, but Wai replies that he is there to kill him. Iyun asks Wai if it's acceptable to brazenly murder a fellow disciple like that, and if he isn't afraid of the consequences. but Wai just throws a blade slash at him, saying that the lifeless cannot speak. Ian bends down in time to dodge it and tells Wai that he can't kill him with just that. Then Ian pulls his sword from his back. Wai swings down his sword, telling Ian that he didn't use his full strength in the arena before, so they should see his true strength. But Ian easily jumps to avoid it and appears behind Wai, telling him one slap. Wai looks back in confusion and Ian attacks him with his flawless crystalline body, hitting Wai from behind and throwing him hard, destroying trees in the process. After being thrown away, Wai slams into the ground hard and Ian tells Wai that his strength is enough to finish him with just one slap. He realizes that it was the first time he had used the spiritual power generated by his Vajra-glazed physique, and he didn't expect it to be so destructive. He also figures out that if he cultivates it to the limit, it will be even more powerful. Wai admits that he is not as skilled as him and says he can kill him now. He, however, questions Wai, asking if he had any last words before dying. Wai reveals that his sister is in Huluan, King Mu village, and begs him to give his sister all his savings from the Ki-Yun sect, but not to tell her he is dead. Wai then tells him that he can make his move as he has no regrets about dying at his hands, but he simply tells Wai that he can go, leaving Wai confused and surprised. Wai asks why he won't. Iyun replies that he has no reason, and while he wanted to kill him just now, it doesn't mean he will do it now. He then remarks that it would be easy for him to kill Wai and asks if Wai doesn't think so. Wai laughs hard and asks if that means he doesn't care about him, but he just tells Wai to think what he wants. Wai then seriously warns him to beware of the sixth elder named Han Zion, as he was the one who paid Wai to take his life, leaving him surprised and thankful for the information. The next day, in some deserted place, he is amazed by the number of treasures in that desolate area. He realizes that without the system's reminder, there was no way he would have found it. The system shows him that after his mass devouring, he gained 3,200,000 experience points and congratulates him for breaking through to the third stage of the Grandmaster realm. He knows that there are currently 10 elders in the Ki-Yun sect, who rarely stay within the sect. They only show up on their own initiative during large-scale events, such as the Intersect Disciple Competition, and they are all above the fourth stage of the Transcendent Realm. He thinks that if he ranks them according to their martial arts skills, Han Zion will be ranked 6th, differing from Q, who is ranked 10th. Also, he notes that Zion signifies being vicious and self-centered. The system showed a notification telling him that it detected a treasure to the south. He swiftly ran, aware that his enemy this time around was not to be underestimated, and knew he needed to improve his martial arts quickly before his enemy struck again. Landing on a stone, he was shocked to see a peak grade 5 demonic beast, the giant sand scorpion, fighting with the disciples. He furiously growled at the disciples, but his attention was caught by something behind the scorpion. He wondered if it was a Datura stramonium in front of the cave entrance. He knew that the Datura stramonium is said to be a precious herb capable of resurrecting the dead, and he thought that those disciples had come for the flower. However, the demonic beast misunderstood, thinking they came to destroy its cave, which is why it was attacking them. Shinhu, a 6th stage Grandmaster Realm fighter, shouted that the demonic beast's offense was too fierce and it adjusted its position quickly, preventing them from getting close to the Datura stramonium. Lai Yun, a 7th stage Grandmaster Realm fighter, told his team that he feared they'd be exhausted before the beast was dead at that rate. Lu Mei, also a 7th stage Grandmaster Realm fighter, suggested to Iyun that they should stand on opposite sides and make a combined sword attack, expressing her disbelief that they couldn't kill it that day. Then, Iyun and Mei jumped together for a combined attack, but their attacks didn't even scratch the beast, leaving them in disbelief at the ineffectiveness of their attacks. Suddenly, a lady appeared and slashed the scorpion's claw in time to protect Li Yuan and Mei, making the scorpion scream in pain. Iyun was surprised by the lady's fast speed and powerful sword technique. The lady, Lai Qingjiu, a 9th stage Grandmaster Realm fighter, told Li Yuan and Mei not to let their guard down, and they both thanked her. Wang Gan, an 8th stage Grandmaster Realm fighter and the leader of the group, told his juniors that their swordsmanship had improved and that they should join forces while the scorpion was injured. A moment later, the disciples were fighting the scorpion together. He noticed that all 5 people were wearing the Intersect Disciple costumes of the Ki-Yuan sect and were quite powerful, as the weakest among them had reached at least the 6th stage of the Grandmaster realm. He wondered if they were on a mission from the Affairs Hall and thought it was a shame because he couldn't take the treasure rashly. So, as the beast was going all out, roaring and throwing a wild red aura into the mix, Wang Gan yells at his team to block whatever this beast is about to unleash. Meanwhile, Li Yuan and Mei catches wind of the impending danger. Li Yuan immediately raises his voice, warning that the beast is about to make a desperate strike. Mei questioned whether the beast is attempting to take everyone down with itself and asks for guidance on what they should be doing. She turns around to Wang Gan, asking if they should give up on the mission. Seeing this, Wang Gan gave the green signal for them to retreat. Yiyun smirked, proudly declaring he is taking the reward since they are ditching the mission. So with that, he shoots into the air with his lightning speed. And just when he was inches away from grabbing that precious treasure, Lai Qingju senses that someone was making a move for the Datra Stramonium. Moments later, before anyone can blink, Ian effortlessly snatches the Datra Stramonium that everyone had their eyes on. Then, someone shouts that the beast is about to blow itself up and orders a full-on move to safety. Quick on their feet, the team immediately throws up protective barriers to dodge the green goo poisonous gases showering down like a waterfall. After finally ridding themselves of the monster, Li Yuan checks in on Mei, inquiring if she was alright. Mei assures Lin Yuan that she is fine. Chen, who catches wind of the situation and shouted, announcing that someone has grabbed the Datra Stramonium. Wang Gan swiftly turns around, asking everyone where Lai Qingju is. Meanwhile, the scene shifts within the mountains, where Yiyun leaves a trail of lightning in his wake as he sprints away. Amidst his escape, he suddenly catches a strange fragrance in the air that clearly alerts him of someone else's presence. At the same time, Lai Qingju gracefully landed on a nearby tree branch, demanding that he hand over the Datra Stramonium. Lai Qingju crossed her arms and asked Yiyun if he was an outer disciple of the Kaiyan sect, and why he decided to take their treasure. Lai Qingju also wondered aloud if he is either incredibly brave or just plain stupid and wanting to die. Yiyun replied that since everyone was ready to withdraw from the mission, the treasure was up for grabs. At that moment, he leaps into the air to get closer to her, continuing that those who were capable of seizing an opportunity can get to keep the treasure for themselves. And with those final words, he dashes away, vanishing with his lightning speed. Lai Qingju turned around to watch Yiyun swiftly making his exit, realizing that he was very fast. However, Lai Qingju immediately started trailing him with matching lightning speed. Yiyun, seeing the Lai Qingju closing in, finds himself astounded by the fact that her speed rivals his own tenfold. With this new development, he took out a talisman that was brimming with electricity, all while he makes it clear that Lai Qingju is not even close to catching up with him. With his trump card activated, Yiyun just disappears into thin air, passing through a somewhat portal in front of him, leaving Lai Qingju alone perched on the tree branch. Lai Qingju then tried to track him down. She immediately uses her ability to find his aura within the forest. However, she was a bit taken aback when she found out that his presence had completely disappeared throughout the entire forest. A moment later, Wang Gan arrives at the scene, promptly asking Lai Qingju how it went and if she got the thief. Lai Qingju landed on the ground with a thud and replied that the person has escaped. At that very moment, Li Yuan and Mei also arrived at the scene. Mei immediately expresses her concern, suggesting that the one who fled might have deliberately concealed his cultivation and might be an expert cultivator. In response to her concern, Lai Qingju clarifies that even if he was at the Qi Blood Realm cultivator, if he had an instant transfer talisman, the five of them would have no way of catching him even if they teamed up. Hearing this, the juniors standing behind Wang Gan were shocked to the core, unable to fathom the reality of the situation. But Wang Gan's expression, however, reveals the growing concern swirling in his mind. So Wang Gan explained that the instant transfer talisman was something that can only be created by a Martial King Realm powerhouse who controls the power of space, and its value increases according to the rank of the talisman. Wang Gan continued that he'd heard that the cheapest ones may not be sold even for tens of thousands of spirit stones. So with everything that has unfolded, everyone's expression were of worry as they realized that an outer disciple is casually strolling around with such a high-value treasure. Mei annoyingly said that how could they, the top 20 in the inner disciple strength rankings, manage to lose to an outer disciple? If word got out, they would be the joke of the Kiyuan sect forever. Wang Gan then said to everyone that what was done. Anyway, if they can track down the guy and get the treasure back, it will not be a total failure. And since the guy decided to use an instant transfer talisman, he would definitely head back to the sect. So they should return and try finding him. The scene shifts. At the outer disciples' cave, Yiyun was holding the Datra Stramonium and a bag of treasures while basking in the glory of Han Feng's storage bag. He acknowledged Han Feng's storage bag of really being a treasure chest. Yiyun originally planned on keeping the instant transfer talisman for as long as possible, but he didn't expect to use it so soon. Anyway, Han Feng's storage bag is the gift that keeps on giving. It's got a soul-devouring bead, a shepherd's bow, a recording stone, the instant transfer talisman which turned out to be a game-changer, and other stuff. In the current moment, as he stares at the treasure-filled flower, he hopes this spiritual treasure will live up to its hype. And true to his nature, he just utters the magic word devour, and as always, his dark energy springs into action, starting to devour the Datra Stramonium. Moments later, the notification pops up, declaring the devouring of the Datra Stramonium was a complete success, and he had gained 1 million experience points, propelling him into breaking through to the 4th stage of the Grandmaster realm. Iyun's experience points was now 15,578,000 over 18 million, and his Vajra glazed physique was a primary Earth rank. However, his Feiyan art technique and martial arts, Spirit Glow Sword technique, Fire Poison Palm, Tremor Stomp, are all at the advanced rank, with his Soundwave Roar at intermediate rank. The divine ability of million times attack speed also undergoes a significant change, now flaunting a tenfold increase in attack speed. It was like a double scoop of success from this martial arts buffet. While he is busy reveling in the glory and feeling good all about his upgrades, Iyun was interrupted by an unexpected arrival. Alert and ready, he scans his surroundings, demanding to know who dares to intrude on his privacy. The scene then shifts again to the next day, where the Jinjiang County was lively as always. In the following moment, Iyun, strolling alongside Yalan, asked if their mission was not for a shopping down the hill. Yalan, maintaining a serious tone, she dismisses his concern, explaining that she heard rumors of a grand auction at the Treasure Pavilion, and apparently this is city's largest auction building. So she believes that there might be numerous treasures, that's why she invited him to join. She also offered to buy him anything he desires as a token of gratitude for the ice elixir he purchased for her last time. Remembering that she has not thanked him yet, she starts feeling a bit awkward about it and the current situation, so she shouted, making it clear that her choice of outfit was not for him, and the occasion was definitely not a date. Iyun was indifferent and straightforward, so he just nods in response and asked her if there was anything else. As they continue forward, she replied that the auction was about to start, and since she had a hard time getting a private room there, they should hurry. Blushing furiously, Yalan leads the way and gets ahead, seemingly trying to cover up any lingering embarrassment. Oblivious about the situation, Iyun ponders the mystery of understanding women. Behind them was Qingmu, who noticed Iyun and was momentarily shocked seeing him. A while later, in the Yang's mansion, a man in red with a snake on his shoulders, questioning Qingmu, who was on his knees, paying respect. He asked Qingmu if he was certain that he saw Iyun. Qingmu replied that he was sure. He also revealed that Iyun had been seen in the city with the mayor's daughter, and according to his information, they were close, and they joined the Qiuan sect a month ago. The mysterious man with the snake was the young master of the Yang family, Yang Longzhan, 7th stage of the Grandmaster realm. With a slight grin, Longzhan asked if Qingmu wants a reward. Qingmu thanked the young master for his generosity. However, in that moment, a purple energy blade comes whizzing towards him, as someone shouted how disgraceful Qingmu was for having the audacity to ask for a reward. This prompted Qingmu to make a run for it, but unfortunately, the energy blast smacks him right in the back, leaving him groaning loudly in pain. Qingmu died shortly after. This terrifying energy blast came from Yang Xiong, master of the Yang family, and was at the 1st stage of the transcendental realm. Yang Xiong was not pleased with his son's judgment, saying Longzhan was going to take over the family soon. So why was he so impulsive with his decisions? Anyway, Yang Xiong continued that Qingmu was nothing but trash, who was not doing his job well. And on top of that, his arm was amputated by someone else, disgracing the Yang family by extension. Yang Xiong shimmers with purple energy, enraged, and makes it clear that there was no rewards for people like Qingmu. His disciples show their respect and congratulate their master on his early return from cultivation. Longzhan calls him father, saying he hasn't seen him for 2 months and casually congratulates him for improving his cultivation again. Yang Xiong replied, making it crystal clear that if it weren't for him practicing his cultivation, that clusterfuck with the Yi family would not have happened. As 2 disciples obediently dragged Qingmu's corpse out of the mansion, Yang Xiong continued that who Q thinks he was, that he actually dares to protect the person the Yang family wanted to kill. Hearing this, Longzhan nods along with his father and casually mentions that now that Iyun has dared to step into their Jinjiang County, he will personally finish him off right here in this county. Seeing his son's appearance, Yang Xiong commented on how he asked his son to learn from the 6th Harmony sect, But Longzhan refused and insisted on learning martial arts from a ghostly old man. Now, at the age of just 20, Longzhan looks old enough to be his brother rather than his son. Longzhan, however, reassures his father not to get too worked up. He firmly believes that the more he cultivates this underworld's secret art, the older he will look. So, basically, the fact that he looks like his brother was proof that his cultivation is on the rise. So, Longzhan proudly declares that he has now cultivated from the Qi blood realm to the second stage of the Grandmaster realm. So with that, Longzhan was practically beaming with self-praise, telling his father to be thrilled about his son's newfound martial prowess. Hearing this, young Xiong just sighs and casually tells Longzhan to prove that he has actually learned something worthwhile in all the years he had practiced martial arts. Young Xiong pours himself some wine in his skull-like glass, and continued that Longzhan should go and bring Yi Yun's head before nightfall. With a dark twist of words, he adds that he cannot wait to use a new skull as a cup. And in front of their disciples, Longzhan immediately accepts the challenge. Meanwhile, at the Sex Treasure Pavilion, Wang Gan turns to Lai Qingqiu and said that it was expected of the Treasure Pavilion's annual auction to be crowded, buzzing with excitement as well. He then asked what Lai Qingqiu thought. Without an answer, Wang Gan casually reveals that he accidentally snagged a treasure while on a mission last month. This treasure he got is said to block attacks from the third stage of the Transcendental Realm. Wang Gan offers it to Lai Qingqiu for defense. However, Lai Qingqiu just lazily stares at it and flatly tells Wang Gan that she doesn't need it, suggesting he keeps it for himself. Undeterred by her cold response, Wang Gan humbly accepts and continued. He reminds Lai Qingqiu that she is the third elder's direct disciple, usually accustomed to rare items, so it was normal that she doesn't need this treasure. Moments later, Lai Qingqiu reveals that she thought she saw the thief. Wang Gan, interested, asked who it is. Lai Qingqiu then directs her gaze at the approaching Yi Yun and Yalan, indicating that Yi Yun was the one who took the Dasra Stramonium. As Yi Yun and Yalan head towards the auction, Yalan commented on how crowded the treasure pavilion was. She was also excited, telling Yi Yun that she has heard there are loads of exotic items in this auction, and she is all in for witnessing everything. Suddenly, their path was blocked by Wang Gan's hand. Wang Gan, together with Lai Qingqiu, interrupted them, and as Wang Gan asked Yi Yun if they have met before, Yi Yun just stared at Lai Qingqiu, thinking that she must be the one that he met in the forest. Lai Qingqiu takes a step forward, politely inquiring if he is a disciple of the Kaiyan sect. In response, Yalan reveals that they are outer disciples of the Kaiyan sect and wonders if there is something wrong. At that moment, Lai Qingqiu extends her hand with a pleasant smile, introducing herself as Lai Qingqiu, a disciple of the Kaiyan sect as well. Seeing this, Yalan starts getting a bit jealous at the sight of this lady directly extending her hand toward her crush. On the other hand, Yi Yun stares at Lai Qingqiu, wondering if she is testing his strength with this handshake. In an awkward turn of events, Yalan couldn't hold back her jealousy and dashes forward, shaking Lai Qingqiu's hand before Yi Yun could even make contact. Introducing herself, and Yi Yun also. Wang Gan also introduces himself and reveals that they were inner disciples of the Kaiyan sect. He then explains that during their mission yesterday, the treasure they were after got snatched by an outer disciple. Curious, he asks if they know who that person might be. Completely clueless, Yalan questions how they would know and wonders if they are suspecting Yi Yun of being the one who snagged it. In response, Wang Gan reassures her that they are just lining up targets. He turns to Yi Yun, asking him to prove his innocence by allowing them to check his storage bag. Yi Yun stays silent as Yalan shouts at the top of her lungs, questioning why he needs to show the bag. At this point, Lai Qingqiu tells Wang Gan not to be pushy and bluntly rude, but he assures her that he knows what he is doing. He goes on to explain that it was proper for a senior to discipline their junior, and even if Yi Yun was aggrieved, the most important thing is to retrieve the item. So with that, Wang Gan presents a bag of 100 spirit stones, suggesting he give Yi Yun the bag if he's not the one they were looking for. However, Yalan was having none of it. She once again shouts that they are not agreeing to anything. Yi Yun confidently cut Yalan off and firmly expresses that he wants 1,000 spirit stones and a kneeling apology. If he can agree to that, then they have a bet. Wang Gan's head turns to Lai Qingqiu, asking once again if she was sure that Yi Yun was the one who snagged their treasure. Lai Qingqiu immediately replies that she was 80% sure. With that clarification, he accepts the offer. So with that, Yi Yun casually throws his storage pouch towards Wang Gan, and as he caught it, he hands it over to Lai Qingqiu, reminding her that since she was the best at spirit sensing, so she should be the one to check the pouch. Lai Qingqiu activated her spiritual sensing, and as the pouch levitates, and her eyes shimmer with a bluish aura. Lai Qingju does her first search and found nothing, then her second, again nothing. So despite 3 searches, she fails to detect the Datura stramonium in the pouch. Wang Gan, curious, lost his composure and asked how the search was going. Again, Lai Qingju didn't answer Wang Gan and apologizes to Yi Yun, confirming that he is not the guy they are looking for. Hearing this, Wang Gan was shocked and immediately turns pale as he lost his cool, realizing that he fucked up. He lost the bet and his precious spirit stones are gone. On the other hand, Yi Yun was grinning like a devil at the prospect of claiming all those sweet rewards and owning this rude fucker's ass.